Hello everybody, welcome. We have live chat going on at the same time. If you want to join the live chat on YouTube, you may. Any questions, comments, please request to speak. Tesla is flat, up only 0.4% at $202.63. Overall markets are Dow Jones up 0.2%, NASDAQ up 1.2%, S&P 500 up 0.8%. Richard, how are you? Long time no talk.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing all right. I'm just trying to figure out this middleware that I'm supposed to be using for on live chat. I'm trying to put some visuals, at least like this screen on X Spaces, but I'm struggling a little bit. We just did a couple of tests and the audio is a little staticky. But anyway, what's new with you?
Been very busy with work, and that's why you haven't seen me as much. Kind of had to go that way, but I did get FSD version 12, and I have not had a single safety critical disengagement since I had. It's just been so good.
That's awesome. Tell us more about it.
So I've taken it through. I put in everything from just a bunch of random destinations, Chick-fil-A, whatever, just trying to drive it over, see how it would perform. It was acing all that. I even put it in, even at one point, just let it drive around randomly without a destination, and just let it take me where it would. And so I talked to one of my employees who has 11.4.9, and I asked him, like, hey, do you have any problematic spots that you've had? And he, I had him hop in the car. It's actually my wife's car who got it, so I've switched cars with her. And we went over, tried all the spots, and it just blows right through them effortlessly. The only tiny complaints, which is, I wouldn't call it, these not safety critical, the only uncomfortable things I've ever had is like, 2 times it's when it said there was a multiple turn lane. It kind of was undecisive. There wasn't anybody behind me, but it kind of hung between the 2 lanes before deciding. Like, it was kind of, doing a little bit of back and forth on the decision making. So I had that twice, and then twice on the freeway, merging over. It started to merge, and then a car came a little closer than it wanted, and it felt overly cautious, and it jumped, it went back into the lane before then successfully making the merge. So it wasn't, again, nothing safety critical. I feel like we're splitting hairs on that.
What was that? You okay?
Yeah, oh, sorry, I was in the back of the office there. They were offloading some stuff there.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, all good.
All right. So did you buy FSD or are you subscribed to it?
I bought it on all my vehicles.
All your vehicles. Okay. What do you think V12 is going to go do to take rate? Does it pass the wife test for you?
It blows the wife test. The wife, I just went out last evening with her, driving around, same thing. Yeah, she was super impressed. I can't get it to fail. I'm sure I've seen videos. I've seen videos of it not yielding to a pedestrian properly or not making a proper left turn. But I don't, obviously, so to some extent, obviously I must be lucky, but I have not had it fail anywhere. It's smooth. And that's something that you can't really pick up in the videos, is how much smoother and more comfortable it is, and how much more confident I feel driving. I just know, like, hey, I'm going to hop in there, I'm going to put it on, and I'm not going to do anything till it gets me to the destination. It's just going to work, and psychologically, it's going to change people's perception. I think. I mean, even if it does, I'm sure there's going to be somebody that has a failure at some point, or maybe that uncomfortable situation where it makes you look a little bit weird because you didn't decide on the that left turn. But again, only twice in all the drives. But I'm extremely positive on it.
All right, thank you for sharing.
No problem. Good to hear from you.
What % of your miles are on FSD?
Since version 12, 100%.
And when did you get it, you said?
Not as early as Omar. It was just days. How many days was that? I'd have to look at my history, but it's been a few days.
A few days. Okay, so you had dozens of miles on it, and 100% of them have been on FSD, and you're positive on the software, to recap it. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Guess we shall see. Any questions for Richard on his V12 experience? Please request to speak. We have both X Space and live chat going on at the same time. I tried to get some visual to the live chat, but it was unsuccessful today. We got the visual, but the audio got much worse. So I need to get that squared away, and then live chat will have the same visual that you X folks are seeing on the app. This morning, we got the S&P Global US Manufacturing PMI. Came in at 52.2, slightly higher than the prior 51.5. ISM Manufacturing Index came in lower than expected at 47.8. This is February data. ISM Manufacturing Index came in lower than expected, as well as the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment final read for February came in much lower than expected at 76.9. Construction spending was also lower slightly today at 0.2% negative versus expected plus 0.3%. Consequently, the GDP Now data was revised downward. GDP Now was revised downward to 2.1% from 3.0% last read. That's a very significant revision. And the one before that was also downward from 3.2 to 3.0. So in a matter of a few days, the GDP Now growth estimate for Q1 came down by 1%. The yield curve is down today. 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.19, down 7 basis points. 5-year Treasury was down 10 basis points at 4.15. Any questions, comments? Please request to speak. Next Friday, we're going to get the employment report for February. Crude oil is up $2 to $80 per barrel. Natural gas still low at $184. Let's see if we have any news from Sawyer. There's a sighting of the Model 3 ludicrous prototype. So sightings are increasing. Production seems near. Probably in the next couple of months, we should see some Model 3 ludicrous production. Sawyer says rear spoiler is a decent bit bigger than the previous Model 3 performance. Tesla unveiled new incentives in China on Friday. Customers picking up existing inventories of Model 3 sedans and Model Y SUVs by the end of March would be entitled to a maximum of 34,600 yuan, about $4,800 worth of incentives. Customers picking up existing inventories of Model 3 sedans and Model Y SUVs by the end of March are getting about $4,800 worth of incentives in China. Tesla increased Model Y rear-wheel drive and long-range prices by $1,000 in the US last night. I'm curious to see how long these higher prices will stay, or if Tesla will have to introduce more incentives in the next couple of weeks for quarter end. But my understanding is that delivery estimates for Q1 is declining. Ford paid $250,000 for a Cybertruck in the aftermarket to test. Tesla said, we're rapidly deploying our latest V4 supercharger post, which reaches all EVs in the same supercharger stall. Okay. Fisker warned they may run out of money in the next 12 months. And Tesla opened up the supercharger network. Any questions, comments? Please request to speak, otherwise I'll be on mute.
I'm in and out.
While Omar figures it out on the other end, he posted a Reuters article headline, exclusive, Nissan Fisker in advanced talks on investment partnership sources, according to sources. Fisker yesterday said they may run out of money in the next 12 months.
So I've had a Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive, the first Model 3 they made. Then I got a Model 3 Performance. Then I got a Model S long-range. And so this would be my fourth Tesla, the Cybertruck.
That's awesome. Is there anything different with this delivery process than the ones you had before?
No, I mean, it seems pretty standard. You can kind of tell it's a little bit of a bigger deal. The staff is treating it like a little bit of a bigger deal. You know, when they call you, they're not just kind of like, oh, okay, hey, your delivery is, you know, they go, you know, oh my God, your Cybertruck delivery, you know, like you can kind of hear that they're excited about it too. But yeah, it's pretty standard.
All right, well, I wish you luck with it. I hope all goes well. What do you do when you show up? Do you kind of look around the vehicle and check panel gaps with your ruler?
No, I don't. I just walk around it. There's nothing glaringly obvious. I just go. I mean, if there's any issues, they'll fix it. I have no doubt about that. And I am expecting there to probably be some issues with just the, early adopter sort of experience, some of the software issues. Ryan had an issue where his rear wheel steering didn't work. So this is a new product. It's part of being an early adopter. Sometimes things don't go quite right. But I don't really care because I have a Model S too. So it's not like I'm depending on it or anything, but I think it's going to be an amazing vehicle. So I'll let you guys know what it looks like, how the quality is, whether everything works properly, if there's any issues, and what you guys can expect if you take delivery.
All right, great. Tesla increased the prices for the Model Y long range last night by $1,000 like you predicted. And we also have...
Yeah, that was...
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was an easy prediction to make.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how it shapes up through the end of the month if they have to introduce more incentives later in the month, but we'll see. Sawyer also posted a few hours ago that Tesla unveiled new incentives in China on Friday. Model 3 sedans and Model Y SUVs of existing inventory by the end of March entitled to a maximum of 34,600 yuan, which is $4,800 worth of incentives, according to a Reuters article. That deflation in China is kind of wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a very competitive market there right now. They probably worked out some deal with the insurance company where they offer a lower rate or something like that, and they don't pay them, the full amount of the discount. So I think that's just par for the course right now. We're seeing a lot of deals, a lot of incentives, and that's just what you need to do to compete in this market.
Yeah, the article lists among the incentives are an 8,000 yuan discount in car insurance products with partnerships with Tesla and a 10,000 yuan discount if the buyer chooses a change of paint. Tesla also offers limited time preferential financing plans that could save up to 16,600 yuan, which is, I believe, about $2,000. So about $1,000 in car insurance, 1,000 in change of paint, and $2,000 in financing incentives.
Yeah, pretty good deals.
Reuters asked about the amount of inventory Tesla had in China. A sales representative said it was limited, but declined to provide details. Its biggest local rival, BYD, on Friday lowered the starting price of a new version of its Huang Pro hybrid SUV by 15.4%. Did you see GDP now estimate came down from 3.0% to 2.1% today?
No, I've been driving. I'm actually still in the car right now.
Oh, okay. Your sound quality is really good. Which car is this?
Well, I'm talking through my phone. I'm on the Model S.
Oh, okay.
And I'm stationary. I'm parked right now, so.
Gotcha. I tried Streamlabs a few minutes ago, twice. We got the video into YouTube Live, but the audio quality wasn't great. Steve Steranka just posted my first ever super chat on live chat. Thank you, Steve. I'm gonna take a screenshot of that. He says, congrats on monetization. That's great.
Oh, you got monetized.
I got
Finally.
monetized, baby. Let's go. We got super chats. We got memberships. We got everything you need. Gonna put some t-shirts on there with what's your question? Or do you have a question? Saul, you're welcome. How are you?
What's going on? I feel like I haven't been in one of these rooms in a while.
Yeah, did you miss us?
I cried myself to sleep every night.
What's going on? Were you on vacation?
No, just busy with other stuff.
Yeah. We were just reading your post, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I just tweeted out the Nissan Fisker news.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Fisker lost almost $500 million in Q4, and they only had $300-ish million in cash, and they said they probably will run out within the next 12 months, so they needed to find a partner to be able to stay alive. And I guess Nissan is, biting on the hook. So
What could Nissan possibly want from Fisker?
this reminds me of the GM Nikola deal back in the day. Like, things obviously didn't work out there. I don't think they'll work out here either.
Well, I mean, just because they're kind of in talks doesn't mean they're going to reach any sort of deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, nothing really came of the GM Nikola partnership either. I think they had signed the deal, but nothing really happened.
What did you think of the incentives in China?
Those are pretty normal, no? They do those every month or two. So, yeah, that's normal. Nothing crazy.
Yeah. I think the insurance one is pretty normal, right? It happens every quarter almost.
Yep, exactly.
But looks like there's
Last
$2,000.
month of the quarter.
Right. There's also $2,000 worth of financing incentives this time. Is that new or is that normal as well?
I think that would be new, that amount, I think. But if you add up all the incentives in the past, it might have amounted to a similar amount. So I'd have to look back.
Do we know in what form Tesla is offering those financing incentives?
No, I'd have to go look at their Weibo post.
Do you have a Weibo account?
No, you don't need an account just to go on the website and check out their...
Oh, interesting. How does the experience compare to what we have on X?
I don't really use Weibo. I just go to their account. I have a link to it saved, and I just check their account. You have to use the translator because everything's not in English. But it's all very different than the way the Chinese do things over there in terms of like design and how they post things and interact with everything.
I need a Chinese person in this space to help me make a Weibo account. I want to tweet to the Chinese.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I also toyed around with bilingual captions on the videos I post on YouTube. I'll figure it out at some point. But I think what happens is YouTube automatically puts closed captions and you can translate it. And YouTube seems to be doing a better job than the couple of the editing software I have.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube has access to so much data that they can really fine tune their stuff.
But they can't access YouTube over there, right?
Not officially, but they do.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, you just use a VPN or something.
Yeah.
Omar, what time are you picking up your Cybertruck today?
In 2 hours.
Nice, let's go.
I know, crazy. I better drive over there. I'm still 40 minutes away from San Francisco, so.
Do you have a list of people who want a ride? You have your schedule ready?
Yeah, there probably is a long list of people who want to ride, but I'll just try and internalize it myself for a minute first.
Is this Cyber Beast or dual motor?
Dual motor.
All right. Sawyer, what's on your mind?
I've just been working on the NHTSA petition. I'm trying to finalize that today so I can get it out next week.
Nice. How many people working on it? Just you, or do you have a group of people who are kind of helping you put it together?
It's mostly me, but I do have a couple other people just looking at it and giving me opinions.
What can we expect? You're gonna post it up and you want people to kind of sign it. And this is, you said, what platform are you using again?
I'm going to use change.org. I think most people are familiar with that. So
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it'll have two parts. Part one will be stop paper recall letters, pointless. Canada doesn't do them. We shouldn't have to do them in the US. And then part two, and by the way, the part one, like the NHTSA can just change that overnight. They can make that rule change. That's fine. Part two will be stop calling over the air software updates recalls. It's a bit ridiculous at this point. Quite confusing. It leads to just crazy headlines. And they send paper mails notifying you of the software update, even if you've already installed the update. Like, how does that make sense? So that'll be part number two, but that would require likely legislative changes. So a little bit more difficult. That's why that's part two.
How can people in this space help you?
I mean, just spread this thing as far and wide as possible. I'm really just hoping this is just something Tesla can point to help their efforts. Be like, look, we have support for this. A lot of people want this change. I don't know if it'll end up helping anything, but it's worth trying at least. But yeah, just sign it, share it, retweet it. I don't know. Just do whatever you can.
All right, great. Any questions for Omar or Sawyer? Please request to speak. Omar, did you see Nvidia stock today up another 4%?
No, I've been driving since I woke up, so I haven't checked anything.
Yeah, breaking records, all-time highs. Sawyer, do you have any Nvidia stock?
No, I don't. My fiance had some like a year or two ago, but she sold it.
Oh no, bad timing. Machine?
Speaking of spreading far and wide, that's what your mom did for me last night.
All right.
And, of course, Nvidia goes up after I sell my stake yesterday. I blame you.
Machine, you're going to get him demonetized on YouTube if you keep making crass jokes like that. Let's behave.
Oh, is he making a few dollars now?
I just had
Yeah.
my first super chat from Steve Steranka. Did you see that?
Congrats.
I know.
That's like VinFast selling their cars to Vingroup, the taxi network. They're just basically selling to themselves. That's what you have going on here. You have your own few followers giving you money, and you probably pay them back later. Sounds like it's a conspiracy to me.
No, Steve has been very generous. But what'd you come up to say? What'd you come up here to say?
I just want to say I got your message, your stern message about eating while speaking.
Do you have anything on Tesla? No? Okay.
I saw Tesla Scope yesterday or last night mentioned the SNX are supposed to get some updates today, like the front bumper camera, the interior lighting. I don't think those are live yet, though.
Yeah, it's supposed to be March, but I guess it's March 1st now, huh? Omar,
He said it was launching today.
he didn't say today, he just said March, but are you surprised by that news that SNX are getting front bumper cameras?
I'll believe it when I see it. He said that, front bumper cameras were launching a few times. I mean, I think it makes sense. I'm picking up a Tesla with a front bumper camera today. So maybe just standardize it across the lineup, but the 3 doesn't have any front bumper camera. So I'll believe it when I see it. The ambient lighting, though, that seems like an obvious one. That's going to be standard across the lineup.
I just got my second ever super chat. Drew Soul says, tell machine to only ask questions with 10 words or fewer. So when he comes back up the speaker, that's what $4.99 gets you. Oh, Jimmy's here too. Jimmy has been helping me trying to set up this middleware for the YouTube channel. I was on the phone with him today for about half hour, walking through different options. And it's really awesome. So many people are trying to help get this channel up and running.
Yeah, I can show you how to do it. It's easy.
When did you hit the 4,000 watch hour mark?
About a week.
That's the threshold, right?
Yeah, about a week ago, but it took a few days for them to review and set everything up. And then Habib the Dweeb just became my first member on YouTube Live. So you can be members, and you can do super chats, super stickers, all that good stuff is now available, and ads revenue too on this channel now. And people are subscribing. And then I think eventually we'll probably, becoming a member is only like, I think $1.99 or $2.99. But I think what's going to happen is about a month from now, a few weeks from now, we'll probably do just member-only chats, which should reduce the spam that kind of emerged in the last couple of days a little bit. But it seems to be okay today. Oh, wow. 110110 Reddit just posted a huge contribution through YouTube Live. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's really awesome. All right, let's talk some Tesla. Sawyer, what was the most important news of the week, you think?
Honestly, probably it's not directly Tesla news, but probably Apple canceling their own EV. Because I think a lot of people viewed that as a potential competitor for Tesla long term. But I don't know how much of a competitor realistically would have been at $100,000. And I think it would have taken a while for them to ramp things up, get it right. But I think there was just so much disagreement within the executive ranks about the direction of the whole program. And they spent, $10 billion, $80 million a month on average over 10 years, that they just didn't see a path forward to profitability. The margins were going to be a lot lower than they have seen with their other hardware products. So I think they just came to the conclusion, let's just scrap this. AI is really important right now, and we're sort of falling behind in that. And we need to step up our game. So refocus our efforts on that, reshuffle the 2,000 people on the current car project team to other parts of the company, or just let some of them go and refocus our efforts on other things. One thing I wanted to add, actually, I felt like Tim Cook was going to stay on as CEO of Apple until the end of the project, which I thought would be 2028. But now I'm like, if that's done and Vision Pro's out, I do wonder if he just steps down earlier than I originally thought.
Who would say, did you say Tim Cook?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, wow. There's also some possible CEO change at Google as well.
Oh, yeah, because of the Gemini stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Omar, what do you think about this? The leadership at Google and Apple. This is the first time I've heard about Tim Cook rumor, though. Is it a rumor, Sawyer, or are you just kind of throwing it out there?
No, it's just a rumor. It's not like an official reporting.
Where did you hear the rumor, or do you not want to share your source?
No, it's just Bloomberg. I mean, Mark Gurman, he's probably more plugged into the Apple company than probably any other reporter out there.
I just want to give a quick shout out to, I believe his name is Steve, Tesla Motors on Reddit mod for 8 years. $49.99. That's amazing. It's a record in this channel's history. Omar, what do you think about the Tim Cook and Google CEO rumors?
Well, I'm not sure Sundar is going to lose his job over this. It's kind of a big controversy on X. It's kind of a meme-worthy story. But is it enough for the Google board or the founders to can him? I'm not sure. We'll see. If anything, he would get fired just because they're falling behind on AI, not because of this incident specifically. But I wouldn't say he's dead just yet. In terms of Cook, I mean, this is an extremely delicate CEO transition. We're talking about one of the largest and most powerful companies in the world. This transition needs to be handled delicately, right? We're really moving, Cook was really vetted by Jobs. He was trusted by Jobs, and he was chosen by Jobs to run the company. But now, okay, this is going to be a whole new era. Apple post-Jobs era, really. Post even all the people who worked with him, who knew him. And how do you find that right CEO who understands the culture of the company and can keep it alive? The obvious thing is to hire internally and to promote someone up from internally. An external hire coming in doesn't really, they may not understand Apple's culture that well. And Apple has a very distinctive culture. So my gut would tell me they probably try to promote from within. And they will kind of try and splash this guy out, put him in front of people, see how it goes, kind of drop hints that this might be a candidate, probably before making an official announcement. So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think that Cook is, too old to be doing his job or anything. He's been incredibly successful, but he's not going to be CEO forever. And the company isn't really at the forefront of innovation the way it used to be. So maybe a change of leadership in a smooth, controlled way wouldn't be the worst thing for the company.
I think one big difference between Steve Jobs and Tim Cook was obviously Steve Jobs was in the design studio working and with the design team on these products and services every day nearly. And whereas Tim Cook almost never went to the design studio and still doesn't. So I think and obviously Tim Cook is 10x the company's market cap, like the world exploded. By all metrics, he's been an incredibly successful CEO. But from a product standpoint, I think there is some level of stagnation. The Vision Pro obviously is very revolutionary in many respects, but it's not a huge product yet, and it probably won't be for many years. I think they need a CEO that's young, has a sense of where technology and AI is going in the years to come, and that can be able to, be decisive, make, whether it be crazy, larger acquisitions. Historically, Apple's been against that. They like to just vertically integrate. Or just do small acquisitions. But I think it's going to be really important who they choose. I suspect they will just do in-house. I think that does make sense. But I hope they do pick somebody that is more involved in the products and services that they create.
Just a quick shout out to Habib, who just broke the super chat record of this channel's long history with $99.99. He asked me to say Taycan is a great vehicle. but I won't say it.
It looks great, that's for sure.
Anyway, all right. Omar, I had a couple of replies and questions, and I believe Troy said the same today about SX getting front camera. And does that mean the Model 3 and Model Y will also get front camera sometime soon? Front bumper camera?
Okay, what about it?
Do you think Model 3 and Model Y will also get front bumper camera at some point?
If they add them to the S and X, then you can almost be sure the Model 3 and Y will get it as well.
Do you think that's going to be a problem for Model 3 and Model Y orders this year until that happens?
I don't think so. Maybe a few people who are really into the weeds of it, but your average buyer is not geeking out on these minor details. Or they wouldn't even be buying, one of these Model 3 or Y today either.
Yeah, I agree. Most people don't seem to really care about this stuff too much as the people who are in this space. We follow the company very closely, multiple hours a day, every day. Sawyer, what do you think?
Clearly, though, the Model Y refresh rumors were enough of a problem in Tesla's eyes that they had to issue an update internally, which I don't think they've ever done to that degree, acknowledging that there's even one coming, just not this year. So that does make you worry, how many people are understanding that there is a refresh coming? Will they delay their orders until, next year for that? Or do most people just not even care and they'll just get them this year?
We have Wes in the crowd. If he wants to come up and talk about Model S and X front bumper camera, he's welcome to do so. Wes used to work at Tesla, and he was part of the team who decided on where the camera positions were going to be on the vehicles. So he would be the perfect person to ask about this. But I'm sure he's busy right now. But when he frees up, he's welcome to come up. Sawyer, do you follow macroeconomics with one eye at all, or is that something you ignore altogether?
I don't follow it super closely, but a little bit, yeah.
What do you think of the latest data that's coming out? Inflation data, growth projections?
It seems like more and more people are coming to the conclusion that, rates will be higher for longer, and that maybe, I don't know what the percentage has changed for what people are expecting for a June rate change, but it seems to be lowering based on the CNBC data I saw this morning.
Did you guys hear? Yeah, this morning we got the ISM data and it was a little lower than expected. So it seems like the growth estimates are coming down a little bit. Atlanta GDP now revised down from 3.0% to 2.1%. And I just sent a message to AI Driver because Wes says AI Driver's latest V12 video was really great. It would be awesome to get him to talk about it. So I sent him a message, but he's usually unavailable throughout the day. Maybe we can do a Sunday one again, see if you can join that one. Omar, did you see? Oh, no, you didn't, because you're driving all day. If anyone has seen AI Driver's V12 video, please request to speak and share your thoughts. So what's the latest on Cybertruck production at Giga Texas? Oh, we just lost Sawyer. Neo says, I leased my Model Y the same week. They said refresh is not coming this year, leased for 2 years. I imagine orders would pick a 2 versus 3 year lease, knowing that financing a pre-refresh or getting a 3-year lease wouldn't make as much sense. Taylor says, a problem with people waiting for the Model Y refresh is the actual Tesla employees who work at showrooms. Multiple friends of mine heard false information about the timeline of Model Y refresh. Tesla employees said this summer. Lots of people waiting on refresh. That's true. So now people have a reason to wait on Model Y. Two reasons now. So I guess Model 3 and Model S and X sales may have to make up for that. Habib asks, is FSD 12 only out of California? We asked that question about Tesla the other day, and he said most of it is in California, but a couple in Nevada and one in, I forget which state he said, but in another state. So I would say 99% of the people who have V12 are in California. And I asked him why you think he felt that is the case, and he said, they're trying to roll out, be very cautious about it. They probably want to stick to an area where they're very familiar as they roll out the initial stage. Omar, do you have a view on that? Or do you agree with that? Why is Tesla focused on California?
I mean, I don't think they're focused on California. I think there's actually people from different states who are using it. But when you have this data from like Tesla Scope or Teslafy or anything, it's obviously only going to be a sample of the data. So it's the people who signed up for Tesla Scope or Teslafy, that type of thing. I mean, Elon did say in a tweet that it's working well in California, so maybe they're not deploying it to certain places where they know it has issues or something like that. But it's definitely not the case that it's only in California or that it's 99% in California. I know people in, Minnesota, New Jersey, Arizona, Colorado, all across the country who are using it.
Tesla Scope, welcome. How are you?
All right. How's everyone else doing?
Doing well. Did you just wake up? You sound like you just woke up.
I've been kind of battling a little bit of a sore throat and sickness the last week or so, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for stopping by anyway.
Of course, yeah. I would pretty much agree with what Omar just said about the current deployment of version of V12. I only hopped in about like a minute or so ago.
All right. Well, I don't.
Tesla Scope said maybe we get a rollout this weekend. Would that be 12.3 or 12.2?
It's looking like it's going to be 12.3 based on the time it's taken, as well as the notion that a couple of vehicles that did purchase FSD and have been subscribed or purchased did get moved to the 2024 branch. Not many, but a couple have, and that's typically we haven't seen that happen for the majority of vehicles remaining on the 2023 branch, even without access to version 12. So something's going on with that. That might mean that we're going right to the 2024 branch, just because it has been such a while since we first started seeing updates on that branch. Otherwise, we should. I don't know yet if new vehicles are going to be included. This might be just still going out to vehicles that currently have a FSD version 12 build, but we should hopefully know more soon. But Omar did say if it doesn't go out, everyone gets Tesla Scope Pro.
That's right. You heard it here first. Yeah, that would be pretty amazing if it went out more widely to more people. I know a lot of people are dying to try it, so that'd be super fun. If we get Cybertruck and FSD 12.3 this weekend, then it's the best weekend ever.
Tesla Scope, would you like to tell us more about the Model S and X? Is that going to be starting today or later this month?
Yeah, so the production lines finally were updated, And one of the biggest questions I've gotten was, well, what's going on with all the other models? And essentially, Tesla's been having, to kind of the better, lack of better words, kind of a nightmarish time recently with their part suppliers. Most of it is not really Tesla's fault. It's just been a lot of bad circumstances. So this was something that was expected to happen much earlier. In fact, I think one person had told me that, I don't know if it's Elon or someone else had said that even the first Plaids were technically supposed to have some of these features. So they're finally updating things. That doesn't necessarily mean that all vehicles are going to include those features, as Tesla does like to go through some of their inventory first, but the first vehicles going off the manufacturing lines should start to have a bunch of new features, including the front bumper camera as well as ambient lighting, like we've seen in the Model 3 and the Model 3 Highland. Now, an important thing to note is that the reason why Tesla has started with the Cybertruck and now the S and X is it's a lot easier to make major changes to the production lines with lower volume vehicles. To disrupt the lines, like with the 3 and S, where the 3 and Y, where they're putting out vehicles constantly, has a lot more of an impact, especially if something that you're still trying to test and work out with the newer with other models. So Tesla's kind of going the same route as they have with a couple other major hardware updates, where they're focusing more on their flagship vehicles, which do also obviously happen to be a little bit lower volume. So we should see the bumper camera starting with Cybertruck, as we've already seen. It's now going to be making its way to the S and X. The next vehicle to get it from there is going to be the Model 3 Performance. It's going to receive it prior to the other trims for the Model 3. And then either at the same time or slightly before, the other Model 3 trims will receive it. And then lastly, the Model Y will receive it.
Great. Machine, what do you think?
I'm sorry, I misheard the first part of the discussion. Is this about the cameras?
Yeah, the Model S and X getting front bumper cameras, ambient lighting, and other changes, as Tesla's posted. He's also feeling a little under the weather today. Would you like to wish him well wishes?
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard him say anything bad. So get better, Tesla scope. If it was Yaman or Omar, I would say don't get better. Hope you get a fever.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So now you can stop talking. I think the cameras are inevitable on all these vehicles because the ultrasound sensor removal created a little gap in performance capabilities of estimating the objects around the vehicle that the current camera setup might not be able to fully account for, especially the loss of memory. If there's an object that's out of sight when the car parks, let's say someone puts an object that wasn't there before, it can be out of the sight of the current camera setup, and then they move the car and they can hit it because there's no sense, there's no ability to see it. And so the front camera bump, on the bumper can help you actually directly see any objects, even if they show up after you park the car. That's one reason. There's another reason possibly that it will then help in places like parking lots or very narrow streets. Less likely there, but for full self-driving, although I don't know if that's necessarily the plan right now, there could be a possibility that helps in those cases as well. And before I go for a meeting, I just want to say I did watch AI drivers drive his video, or at least most of it, and I thought it was pretty interesting because there's a lot of more human-like performance and tendencies, such as speeding up and driving faster on these narrow roads when there's another car that it's following, not necessarily closely, but that it can see on the street. It gains confidence to drive a little more quickly. And as soon as the car goes out of sight, it slows down. And I think that is something that humans do, probably subconsciously even. There are other things, interestingly, about timing. It's predictive ability for timing when cyclists are coming, or there's also deer running on the street, and it was able to be a little aggressive with the cyclist to turn left in front of it. There was ample time, but it definitely had the time, it had to have the foresight and predict the velocity and whatnot to time it. So there's a lot of natural movements there. There were some really impressive passing of a excavator that the amount of space available was insanely limited. I didn't even think it would be able to make it. And it did. And just the ability to position the vehicle, the ability for the neural nets to understand exactly the dimensions of the vehicle and where it's located relative to the environment is very impressive. And obviously they're doing this without any maps. So I thought that was a huge, a big thing, a big observation I saw. On the downside, I wouldn't say it's a downside, just something under development, is the understanding of unique situations, especially humans, making gestures is an area that it needs to improve. There was a construction worker holding a stop sign for one-way traffic. And at first, the FSD didn't really understand that it should stop. And so it started going. And I believe he had to disengage. And then when it was sitting there waiting, when the worker turned the stop sign around and it showed a slow, then it did realize it should go, and it went then. And then there was another time there was a car on the road with its hazard lights on, and the car just stopped behind it, and the driver was still in there waving his hand out the window as in you can pass, and it didn't do anything. So there were a few of those situations where I think it needs better understanding. I don't think those are unsolvable. It probably just needs more cases of that being fed into the training, because those are becoming more sparse, right, in terms of what it would normally get from training data. So I'm sure there's other stuff I missed there, but overall I thought it was really impressive in terms of its human-like driving behavior on these narrow, windy roads, navigating around all sorts of parked cars, moving cars, all sorts of weird conditions you're not necessarily seeing in normal, flat, suburban, or maybe even urban areas. And I think there's a lot of edge cases left, but I think it's definitely moving pretty naturally. And something that I think is on the right path.
Are you adjusting your timeline to first robotaxi ride?
No.
Do you think V12.3 will lead to a take rate increase?
Probably not at this price.
Do you think the Model S and X getting front bumper camera is going to, make people wait for the same at 3 and Y?
Not really. I don't think people are dying for that feature. I think it's a nice add-on, but unless it actually unlocks something, some utility, like improving the object detection, when you're parked, significantly. Like in Europe, there's more complaints about that. So, maybe I think those people are already off-put by the Model 3 and Y not having the sensors. So I think there's already people who aren't buying the vehicles because they don't have it. So I don't know if S and X having it is really going to change those people's minds, because they already changed their mind. So I don't imagine it'll have too big of an effect, negative effect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, Tesla's always introducing something new to their vehicles, so there's always going to be something to wait for. Better to just get it when you need it. You can maybe adjust it a few months either way. But by the time you get the first thing you were waiting for, there's going to be another thing worth waiting for.
Any questions for Omar or Telescope? Please request to speak. $12.3 is going to be exciting. Telescope, did you say how wide it's going to go?
Yeah, so initially I think it's just going to go to just vehicles that already have access to version 12. After that, in the subsequent release, we should see it going wider, but I do anticipate that it's not going to include any new vehicles initially. That, as with a lot of other FSD updates, once it is looking good, we should still see rollouts happen, a day or two later. But I think this is the first rollout still going to go to current vehicles so far.
We have a new speaker coming up. MB Murdo, go ahead. MB Murdo, you have to unmute yourself before we can hear you. We have Ryan in the space. If he wants to come up, he's welcome. I can't hear MB Murdo, so when he figures out the unmute button, he can come back up. Omar, what do you think about the OpenAI lawsuit?
Well, I mean, he has a point, but I doubt they'll win. We'll see what happens. It should be interesting. Discovery should be entertaining. Maybe he was kind of upset that they're now working with Fisker on robotics. So he said, hey, what the fuck? How is a organization I founded now competing with me and they're owned by Microsoft? So the timing's kind of interesting there, but he's been saying this for a while. So, this is going to be a very entertaining court case. I can already tell. So I'm looking forward to that.
Ryan, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, and yourself?
Doing well.
Unfortunately, one way that I'm not doing well, though, is they got the part on Wednesday to fix my Cybertruck, and the part they received was defective, so now they're waiting on a part again.
Okay, I was just about to ask you. So it's still going on, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I really hope they can fix it before this weekend, because I actually, I didn't really announce it, but I put it on Turo, and so someone's waiting for it tomorrow at 11 a.m.
All right, well, I wish you best of luck with that. So Omar is grabbing his Cybertruck. Do you have any advice for him?
I mean, nothing specific. I actually wanted to ask, is it it's in a couple hours, or are you there now?
Yeah, in an hour.
In an hour and a half, yeah.
In San Francisco?
Yeah, in the local delivery center here.
Yeah, not the Colma one, or is it the Colma one?
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily say, because last time some guy showed up.
Oh, see, I was asking because I was going to show up. I was going to be that guy, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah, well, you can text me. I'll tell you where it is.
Sure. Yeah, I was just at the service center here in San Francisco checking on my Cybertruck, and actually have one of my 13 mobile connectors that's failed, so I might be going back in that way. If anyone wants to stalk me, I might be there later today.
So we have about 340 people in the space, and people coming in and out throughout the day. Thousands of people coming in and out. So where are we all showing up, Ryan?
The San Francisco Service Center is where my Cybertruck is.
If anybody wants to see Ryan's Cybertruck, it's at the San Francisco. Can you guys hear me all right?
No, you're breaking up.
All right, it should be better now.
It's raining here in San Francisco today, so I'm going to get to test out that Giga Wiper.
The Giga Wiper does one thing that's kind of funny to me. If you just do the initial wipe, it'll go down, but it won't come up for another 30 seconds, or at least on this initial software, that's how it handled just the single wipe, which was always kind of funny to me.
Archie, go ahead.
Hey guys, listening in from Europe here. Very interesting what you guys have to share about this whole thing. What do you think about generally what the blockers are? Why Cybertruck, Powerwall, full self-driving, all that stuff is not coming over here anytime soon? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Coming over where?
Sorry, to Europe.
Oh, to Europe.
Austria in this case. Yeah.
Well, they're trying to ramp production, and once they figure it out in US and Canada, maybe in the future. I don't know if Europe is going to be priority for Cybertruck, but probably in China next. Omar, what do you think?
Europe hates everything. They're sort of no by default. So, who wanted to merge just recently? Mistral and Microsoft wanted a deal. EU's objecting to that. They object to everything. So it's happening. I think full self-driving will certainly come to the European market. I think that Cybertruck in some form may come to the market eventually, but it's just going to take a little bit extra time.
Right. MB Murdo, you may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Guys, I'm trolling everybody. I've got a 23, a November 23 Model S Plaid build, and it showed up after I accepted it, and no center horn. Is there any word on a payable upgrade to a center horn, like a steering wheel replacement? Does anybody know?
Anybody on the speaker board know about the center horn?
Go into the service section of your app and make a request there. They should be able to do that for you.
Okay, good. Telescope?
Yeah, it should be retrofittable. There's some issues with the parts for the airbag, because the airbag has to be replaced on it with a different revision. So it might take about a week or so to get that. There's someone who's been currently waiting for that. But besides that, yes, you should be able to change to the version that has the center button.
Basically, they just switched it over to this new version. So if you tell them, hey, look, this is a new car, you could maybe convince them to even do it for free. As long as they can get the part, they should be able to do it.
Machine, did you switch back to the old eye?
No, that's insulting. How could you not know which eye I'm on?
Is it different than the last one? Looks a little bit more zoomed in.
No.
It's the same? Okay, never mind. We have a lot of people on the speaker board right now. A lot of important people, from Omar to Ryan to Telescope to John to Ted Latino. And then we have some other guy with an eye in his profile picture.
Well, all those
Ted Latino's getting a Cybertruck too.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my God. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to say hi, swing by, see some really good names here. Hey John, Omar, Ryan, everybody. Oh my God, I'm so freaking excited. I can't contain myself. My Cybertruck is here in Fort Lauderdale, but they still haven't done the inspection, so I'm super just waiting for that call because I'm
Just go stand outside.
Huh?
Just go stand outside.
I don't want, the guys are super busy. They're delivering a lot of cars, and my car's just sitting there. That staff sent me a picture, so I have a picture of it at least.
Mine was delayed almost 10 days because of the Los Angeles rain, and then there's some other stuff that they had to work through. But yeah, I mean, I understand that, man.
Yeah, but it's here. I'm super stoked, super happy for it. I can't believe that I'm gonna get delivery of that thing. I know, John, I've seen everything that you've been putting out there. Omar, you haven't gotten yours yet, right? It's like in an hour or two.
Yeah, 1 hour now.
Oh my God. Yeah.
1 hour.
That's sweet. So yeah, I just wanted to
San Francisco one, Omar. Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to say hi, swing by, see a lot of old friends in this chat. I don't know if you guys had a specific topic, but I just wanted to swing by. I see Yaman there, and everybody. I mean, too many names to name. I see Zeke also, buddy here that allowed me to babysit his Tesla Roadster for about 7 months here in Miami, and that was also really, really cool. Having the more modern cars now and comparing to the old OG Roadster, that's like insane, the amount of progress that Tesla has put out. And seeing the video that they posted up today about the Giga Berlin factory just building the cars, insane to see that. They definitely come a long way. So yeah, shout out to everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for stopping by. So how many Teslas have you had so far? Is this your second, third Tesla?
No, the Cybertruck's gonna be my fourth. Yeah, so I have a Model 3 Performance and a Model Y, and I'm keeping them. So it's gonna be my third at the same. I'm gonna keep the other two. I did have a original, early 2018 Model 3 rear-wheel drive that I traded in for the Performance, and then I'm sticking to those two.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm excited for you. You sound really excited. Why did you go with the Cybertruck? What about it made you to pick one?
Well, I've been doing a lot of really cool overlanding trips all over the U.S., camping in, Bureau of Land Management land, like BLM land and campgrounds. And we always doing road trips. And I think the Cybertruck is just going to take our ventures to another level. And I'm not going to wait. We're leaving on Thursday on the Cybertruck or the Model Y to Utah. We're going to spend the week in Moab. So it's going to be insane. I just can't wait to share all that content.
Steve Steranka in live chat Teslatino says, I'll bring my Cyber Beast to one of Teslatino's Owners Club meetups whenever I get delivery. So there you go.
Right on. Sweet. Yeah, we're having a Tesla Owners South Florida Club reboot this next upcoming month. So we're going to have a big event at a Tesla location. We're waiting for all the approvals now, and we're going to meet up with all our club members that want to join us. There's going to be at least 3, I think, Cybertrucks, plus there's going to be demo drives in the Tesla Delray maybe, or Fort Lauderdale. We don't know yet. It's going to be great. So yeah, anyone that has a Tesla in South Florida can come and join us when we announce that event. It's going to be great.
That's awesome. Good luck with the event. Do you have a road trip planned for your Cybertruck?
Yeah, we're leaving next week to Utah.
Okay. Well, if you keep going, you come.
We have 10 trails.
Yeah, keep going and come to Austin.
Yeah. We have 10 trails that we're going to hit. Mm-hmm.
10 trails, wow. Omar, when are you starting your road trip to Austin?
Yeah, I might go to Starbase if they launch the rocket. Maybe they'll make orbit, so it could be cool. I feel like it's a great vehicle to road trip in. One thing that would be great is if they ship the autopilot update, but hopefully that comes soon.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that I told Nancy Teslatina, she's gonna have to drive the Cybertruck because she really likes driving them without autopilot. So I said yeah, until we get FSD active on that thing, you're going to be driving it a lot.
She'll be the autopilot.
Exactly. For me, that's full self-driving. I'm sitting on the passenger seat, not driving it.
So we have 3 Cybertruck owners now. Oh no, John, you also have one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we have 4 Cybertruck owners on the speaker board. You guys should get together and race
That's
it.
pretty insane.
Yeah. That's wild.
And actually, the funny thing is, like, 3 of us are in like we're within reach of each other, right? Being in the Bay Area.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm the outsider, but that deserves a round of applause, doesn't it?
There you go. Hey, John, were you pleasantly surprised by the product? How has your experience been so far in the last? When did you get your delivery? A week ago, right? A week or 2 ago?
Yeah, so I don't even remember the date, 2 Saturdays ago, but yeah, I mean, so I put how many miles on this thing? So I put a total of 2,145 miles on it in like less than 2 weeks. And yeah, I mean, the product is way better than I thought it would be. I mean, just adapting to this driving has been awesome as well. Like the 4-wheel steering, the steer by wire. I'm still getting used to just driving around such a truck again. I used to have a Toyota Tacoma, so that's been an adjustment. But it makes my Model X 2018 feel really old comparatively, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have such a thing that's just pretty rugged that you can kind of, the thing is a beast though. You got to watch hitting someone else's doors because you're not gonna. There's no coming back from that once this door touches another door. But yeah, outside of that, I think the biggest thing, probably the only 2 negatives for me are how far the windshield is. You can't see the front of it is still one thing, and then the A-pillar right next to it on the left. It's a little sometimes hard to see people. So I think the sensors need to be, it needs to sense the fact of like, hey, you're getting close to something. Let me show the front camera as you're driving, because otherwise you have to almost bring it up yourself. And unless you're feeling comfortable, you're kind of, unless you bring up the camera, I think it's a little bit hard to sometimes make those really tight turns. Yeah, and I think the only other thing too is that when you're backing up, like, again, like in your Model 3, even my Model X, it tells you how close you are. None of that stuff is released for the Cybertruck yet. But outside of that, I mean, again, it's for my kids, they love the back screen. That's an absolute game changer. It's nice to have the utility of the truck bed as well. I put the Cyberquad in the back of it the other day. And then, yeah, I've just been throwing a bunch of fruit at it here and there, and baseballs and golf balls and stuff like that. So it's been fun.
What's your favorite feature?
What's your favorite feature, John?
It's probably just the driving aspect, right? It's the steer-by-wire and the 4-wheel steering. Those are probably the coolest things on the truck. I mean, there's a lot that's pretty cool about it, but just it feels like a different type of vehicle. I think that's really where this car is different, or this vehicle is different, is just the driving experience overall. And it actually drives better than my Model X. So it drives like a luxury car, but it's a truck. So that's probably, you'll notice the ride is a lot smoother and better than most trucks are. And then one of the other things too is like, it doesn't have any issues with sound. I'll be going 80, 85. And even with the bigger tires, I'm not hearing a lot of sound even on the highway.
Did you upgrade the tires already?
No. More to come on that in like a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm probably putting off-road tires before I hit Moab, but I do have a question for you about one thing that I'm not sure. I think I know the answer. I think the answer is no. Do you know if there's a 12 volt, the round 12 volt adapter on the truck because I haven't seen anyone showing it or in the manual, and it's kind of mind-boggling if it doesn't have it because, like most radios, like for communication in a farm and things like that, they use that plug to power them, so you don't have to use directly connection to a battery. You know, if there's a 12-volt outlet.
I haven't seen one, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. Like I'm looking in the, yeah, I mean, I don't see it.
I don't believe it that there is one there. No.
Okay.
I mean, obviously you could convert down from the 110, the 120 volt outlet, the standard 3-prong plug.
Yeah, we carry a little portable battery generator with a solar panel on our trips, and it has a 12 volt, so I can plug into that also. But I was just wondering if there was a native one because it seems odd to me that this car is done for off-road and it doesn't have that port.
Yeah,
it's very common to have that.
My guess is that they're, similarly like removing the majority of the USB-B like that standard versus USB-C standard. I'm thinking that's probably why they're just like, you can do anything you want with a 120 volt, including going down, but you can't go up as easily from, well, I guess you kind of can for a 12 volt. But yeah, that's my guess is that they just prioritize the one because it's in the same position where you would normally have that 12 volt round outlet.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. I know what to do then.
Tesla, are you getting your Cybertruck wrapped?
Well, I'm evaluating a few options because besides the stuff that I want to do, there's also some small businesses that want to collaborate with me and are offering some things. So I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. So we'll see. I wanted to wrap it like my purple car that I had, but someone already did that and I want it unique. So I don't know. I may come up with a unique solution for it. Plus, I also love the way that it looks bare. Like, I think the the stainless steel looks insane. I love it.
Yeah, I was taking some video with it in rain last night, man, and it literally it doesn't look real. it's that, so even as is, as much as people are trying to obviously differentiate, the car looks amazing just as is.
Yeah. I have an idea that I haven't shared with anyone, and screw it, I'm gonna share it here because I'm thinking of it anyway. And if I don't do it, someone will do it. But I'm talking to a body shop to consider if it's feasible to just clear coat it like it was painted. But I don't know. I mean, I know that the DeLorean used to come. That was an option, or it was always like that. I had a thin clear coat later on, so the maintenance wasn't as intense. And it's one thing that I'm considering. I'm a little concerned about the wraps, though, because someone, I think it was the out-of-spec detailing guy, I think he mentioned something. If it wasn't him, it's someone else that's in the industry, that you'll wrap it, it'll look good, but it's going to trap moisture. And that may, in the long term, cause some damage to the stainless steel. I don't know. It's too early because this is a unique blend that Tesla came up with for the stainless steel, and there's not enough data to know. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on taking a quick action. I don't know yet what I'm going to do.
All right, thank you. So you said there are some small businesses in your area offering you some things. What things are they offering?
No, like wrap exchange for promotion and things of that nature.
Yeah, so I guess like each Cybertruck could be a rolling, advertisement machine. Omar, what are you gonna advertise?
Yeah,
is it gonna be Joa?
Exactly.
Omar, are you gonna put Joa on your Cybertruck?
Yeah, I guess so.
He should make you an offer that you can't refuse.
Yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not going to advertise anything in terms of like having an actual name on the side of the truck unless it's like not permanent. But a vinyl wrap would be to do it with one of our known partners that do vinyl wrapping just to promote their service. Maybe I have 3 of those at my disposal, and then someone else that extra that offered to do something. So I'm still debating what I'm going to do really.
What's the going rate right now for a Cybertruck ad?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Ben from Unplugged Performance on the phone yesterday, and he was like, "Hey, check out these wheels. We've got these other accessories for the Model S and X. So I might go get some stuff from Unplugged."
Ryan, are you going to be putting some ads on your Turo Cybertrucks?
Other than putting like the Dispatch brand or the Kilowatts brand, I don't anticipate I'll be putting any ads on it. I was joking, Tyler from Tesla Scope has been a bit quiet, but he's potentially getting one, and he and I were joking that he should replicate the $1 million homepage strategy and just put, if you want a 1 inch by 1 inch space on his Cybertruck, you should pay $100 for it or something.
That is a great idea. Tyler, you should do that.
Thank you. I mean, maybe, yeah, if he doesn't, maybe I should.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? That would be the first one. That's a great idea.
It's a very good idea.
Yeah. I mean, you would be all over X with that Cybertruck. You would get on some news channels. And it would be great for your business too.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler, if we want to do that, we should talk more. But yeah, I'm curious if people think it's a good idea. I mean, obviously, it would get media attention. The advertisers would benefit from it, as we saw with $1 million homepage. Like, this is that kind of viral moment where I could see that being very successful.
Absolutely. I encourage the idea, although some of the audience members, but you know what? Come up to speaker board if you want to, say something. Don't just stay down there, show some reactions. Come up to speaker board, defend your opinion, say it to everybody. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I logged in right as Tesla Tino was talking about the alloy on the Cybertruck. Was it in reference to the concerns over rust? I'm not sure if I caught that right.
I think what I remember hearing was something related to that. I don't know if it's something that should be a concern or not, but it does make sense. I think sounds logical, but I just don't know if it's like really, should we even be concerned? I don't know, right? You cover something, if it traps moisture, maybe it affects it, maybe not, I don't know.
I mean, Tesla's offering a wrap. They're doing a few locations, I think one in SoCal. So they must have at least figured out some process that they at least feel decently confident in that won't corrode the steel.
Let me throw something out there, but let's let Richard. Richard, do you know something about wrapping or PPF?
No, but I know a lot about the stainless steel alloy. And I mean, first off, obviously, they confirmed that, and this is something that I mentioned way before they confirmed it, was that it probably performs at least equal to 316, which is a marine grade stainless steel alloy. And for example, I go ocean fishing on boats and stuff. My accountant has a bunch of 316 marine grade stainless all over boats that's getting exposed to salt water all the time. He takes good care of the boat, and it looks brand new after years of salt water exposure every day. I've even been on boats that have some surface contamination, some surface very, very thin coated just from the contaminants of any iron particles that get on the surface, and that can be cleaned off, and that's after years of neglect on some old type of fishing boats, not the more yacht types. But the main point is that, especially if you wrapped it, you're going to be sealing off any of the, you're going to both be kind of stopping the oxygen and the iron particles and stuff that are getting on the surface, I would see absolutely no problem wrapping 316 or 316, which is again, they're claiming it's even better corrosion resistant than that. So I think it's a non-issue from the get-go.
And the other things I briefly want to add is PPF traditionally is a wet apply. Colored PPF, depending on the manufacturer, is a dry apply, and vinyl is generally a dry apply. So I'm generally encouraged to say, obviously, like, try to make sure it's dry at the beginning, but even then, I think even as we just heard, having it be a little bit wet with a little bit of water stuck in, as long as it's not like a super corrosive water, as long as it's properly cleaned beforehand, I really don't think that there's a major risk there. So I would, I should go as far as to say, I don't think there's any real risk that would be any greater than having it unwrapped, exposed to the weather. So my general advice is not to be concerned about, especially a dry apply wrap. You should be fine.
That's great to know. I do want to disclose that my main reason for probably not wrapping it is not concern of damaging it, but more the fact that I lived through several wraps already, and I know that if I wanted to keep looking good, you have to basically live to keep that car clean, because especially if you have it outside a lot. After only 2 years, you can start seeing real damage on the wrap, even the most expensive ones. But there are solutions, I know. I just don't know if I want to be, like, one of the reasons why I got the Cybertruck is it's a beast of a vehicle that will withstand like impacts and things like that. So I probably don't want to spend much time cleaning it and detailing it. I don't know. Like, I didn't buy it just to make it look good. I just wanted to have a better vehicle for my overlanding trips. And of course, I'm always going to do content with it, but I think it's a beast of a machine that I just want to, if I hit anything with it in a trail or something like that, I'm not really concerned, because if you look at my Model Y, which for those of you that haven't seen it, it's on my profile. It's lifted with off-road tires, protected underneath, and I go through trails, and the sides right now look like what I've been doing with it, which is going through, forests and, rocky trails and all that stuff. And I think it looks really cool with the damage that it has. I just don't know if I want to cover the vehicle with a wrap that then it's going to look scratched and then it's going to start falling apart. That's kind of the main reason why I'm hesitant. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that because just to clear out any misconceptions about it.
Yeah, and I want to throw out on the other side, just for those that are considering. I'm not trying to change your mind here. I think you've got good reasons. For those that are considering wrapping a Cybertruck, though, what I like about it, because I've wrapped several of my cars, and I agree with what you're saying, that if you really want to keep a wrap looking good, you do have to, keep it clean or replace panels if they get scratched. But what I like specifically about the Cybertruck is that, it's ridiculously easy to do so.
Yep.
A lot of people, when they go to get a car wrapped, they're like, oh, I'm only going to go to this one shop. I trust these people. I know all this stuff. On the inverse, I've wrapped my own Model Y, and when it got door scratch, iron scratch material left over, and so I just replaced that panel. Obviously, first of all, the Cybertruck is great for impact, but the stainless steel does scratch very easily. And micro scratches, I got used to kicking my car, and then I was up in the snow and I kicked my car, and because it was there was a little bit of mud on my shoes, that little bit of slipping that I did when I kicked it, you can see that shoe print exactly as it is. You can tell it's a Nike because it's that vivid.
Okay.
And so part of me is what's nice about a wrap is for micro scratches, you'd be protected. For bigger scratches, you just scratch the wrap, maybe through the wrap if it's a really deep thing. And that's, I think, why Tesla's chosen the PPF route, even with their clear PPF, is because micro scratches or even medium scratches are going to be very visible. So especially if you're looking to go off-roading, just adding that additional context that vinyl will protect from small scratches, bigger scratches that cut through the vinyl will still scratch the stainless steel, and the only way to really think about protecting all that is with a PPF.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe I end up wrapping it. So I do like the customization aspect of it.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off. David Cass, did you have anything to say on the matter? Otherwise, we have a question for Ryan from live chat.
Just a real quick comment. I mean, we've covered almost all of it, but I was thinking about the PPF scratching also, and I would rather have a PPF thickness rather than a thin color wrap. And I think keeping up the ambient metals in the air is better with the wrap, and I believe that handprints too are going to be less of an issue. So I would like to see a stealth or a PPF wrap if you went that direction with Cybertruck. I'll let you go.
Thank you, David Cass. Ryan, people are wondering how much you're charging for the Cybertruck on Turo.
Yeah, so while I just added it to Turo, I'm still kind of testing out demand, and the good news is that I actually have 2 bookings. As I mentioned earlier, I might, unfortunately, because my Cybertruck's in service still, I might miss, or I might have to cancel, which really is terrible. And I let the renter know, but they were paying $500 per day plus Turo's fees, and then potentially their own protection plan or insurance. So I've got 2 bookings so far at $500 per day, and if that continues, I'll actually probably increase the price because it's only been on the market for 36 hours.
Sorry, did you say $500 a day?
Yeah, and just a cool $500 a day. It's really not much to the wealthy people out here. It's really normal prices.
That's amazing.
That's low. I've seen from $700 to $1,500 a day.
Yeah, I was seeing several of those other listings still in the higher pricings, and I just put it out at $500 a day, not really knowing what people were looking for, knowing that there were actually a good number of them on the platform now. But yeah, again, if this rate of booking continues, I'll be increasing my price.
You said you have 2 bookings just for this week alone?
2 bookings that were made in the last 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
But they were for different weekends. And so one is this weekend and one's like 3 weeks out.
And they're booking about 2-3 days each time. So you're making like $1,000 plus each time there's a booking.
Correct. After all of Turo's fees on my end, I'm seeing for 2 separate 3-day rentals, $960 is my take from that. And the renter themselves, they're already paying $1,500-ish, probably plus a protection plan. They might be paying $2,000.
Wow. I mean, if this rate continues and you increase your prices, you can pay it off in a few months.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be the hope and the goal. What's unfortunate is I already had a friend who wanted to rent it also at those same rates. And I had to not supply to his rental as well. So the unfortunate thing is if it goes out for service or repairs, as mine is right now, you don't make that money. So I already missed out on a $2,000 rental from the prior week.
I see. Tesla Tina, are you going to be putting yours on Turo at all after? I mean, you talked about, if you wrap it, you worried about scratches. I'm guessing not, but.
No, I don't think so because.
You're leaving money on the table. It's $1,000 a week.
I mean, I think there's 1 or 2 people down here in South Florida that are renting them. Like they park it in front of a shop for a couple of hours and they charge like $100 an hour, and the people don't even drive it. It's just parked in front. I could do it, but I have right now. I still have a full-time job, so I don't think I'm going to be babying this thing and taking it to places like that. I'm not. Yeah, right now at this moment, I'm not looking to make money with it. Other than if my content or my partners, which I have a few, are doing something with me. So I don't think immediately I'll be renting it.
All right, Wes, how are you? Welcome to the speaker board.
Hey, thanks. Sounds like a lot of exciting stuff is happening.
Yeah, a lot of people grabbing their Cybertrucks. We had 4 people who owned the Cybertruck earlier on the speaker board. That's pretty awesome. Do you have a reservation?
That's awesome. I do. I've already confirmed my order, but nothing's happening in Seattle yet.
Yeah, you're waiting for a VIN, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Steve Steranka said that a couple of them showed up in Florida, and I see at least one in Austin every day now.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's crazy that people are really taking delivery of this thing. Seems like the software's a little bit incomplete still, but I mean, it's out there on the roads. Real people are driving it. That's pretty nuts.
Wes, what did I was going to ask you something earlier. What was the topic? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was the front camera that seems like it's coming for the S and the X.
Right. What do you think about that? Were you surprised by that news?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I think that they are leaning towards a unified sensor suite, which I think is, staying the course. So I'm glad to see it is happening there. It is a little odd that it didn't come on Highland. So if it is truly going to come to S and X, that'll be great. And it seems like they're pursuing unification for the sensor suite. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it sounds like they're able to switch it out on the fly for the S and X. So maybe they'll do the same for the Model 3 at some point.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but it'll be interesting to see how it ends up being delivered.
Right. I mean, it doesn't appear to require a whole redesign for the S and X.
I'm not sure. It looks like it's integrated into the front bumper. At least I would assume so.
Doesn't that have implications on the wiring across the car? I thought that was hard to do. I think I saw that on a San Munro video.
Yeah, it is. Maybe the harness already allows for it. Maybe I don't know if anybody's torn down the front bumper of a refreshed or a newer S and X. It might already be there. Kind of like the Cybertruck wiring is there for 48 volt accessories.
Do you think this means S and X is going to 48 volt?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're shooting for that type of unification yet. Cybertruck isn't high enough in capacity. They're not building out enough capacity for that. I would think at some point, and I'm not saying anytime in the near future, but at some point they will unify and take, Y and 3 there probably first, or it'll just happen with next gen vehicle.
If the S or X has a 2024 VIN, then it should be absolutely possible to retrofit, as they do have the wiring required. Even like Tesla Lisa's Model X actually had delivered has the wiring, so it does have the support for the bumper camera itself. There's still no obviously news for when a retrofit will be provided, and I've been kind of saying that please don't expect one for several months. They're very part constrained, and they're always going to prioritize new vehicles as they have with a lot of the other major hardware updates. But that is one thing to note.
Thank you, Telescope. We have a lot of valuable speakers on the board right now. Omar, Ryan, Telescope, Tesla Tino, Wes, with a variety of expertise. If anybody has any questions for anyone on the speaker board, please request to speak. Omar, are you close to the delivery center?
No, haven't left yet. I'll probably leave in about 15 minutes.
You haven't left yet? I would have slept over there. You should keep us on the microphone as you take delivery, and we can all be part of the process.
Yeah, maybe. That sounds like a lot of work. But I could do a video spaces or something, maybe.
Yeah, do a video spaces. I don't know if I'm going to do video in this space, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, man, you mentioned earlier a live chat. Where is that? I'm in the computer. I don't see a live chat.
Oh, that's on YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel now, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, if you go on YouTube, it's Value Analyst 1.
No, I got it. I thought it was here on X. That's fine.
Yeah. No, I hope that
They
one.
got a new feature.
Yeah, I hope that one day they will add live chat here too. Just makes it so much easier. And I'm trying to find a way to pipe in the video as well at some point this week. I'll figure that out. Just let you know, how did financing for Cybertruck come along for you? Was that easy to figure out?
Yeah, it's not. I'm almost not financing anything. I put a humongous large down payment.
You did? Okay. So that must have made it easy. That's good. What about insurance? Were you surprised? Was the insurance rate high or low, or as you expected, in line with other Teslas?
I just put it on. It's less than my Model Y and less than my Model 3.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's 170 a month.
170
Crazy.
a month.
Insane, really.
Is this on your profile? I'm trying to find it. When did you post it?
No, it's just because I didn't take delivery of the truck yet. It's not like that's the quote I have. So once I take delivery of it, which could happen as soon as tomorrow or Sunday, even though I'm scheduled for the 5th, which is Tuesday. Once I get it, I'll just call them because you have 10 days to put the insurance on the vehicle. Like even if something happens after you pick it up, you have 10 days and they can't deny you any claims, even if you put the insurance after you picked it up. But I already did all the arrangements and they quoted me for that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Why do you think it's lower than Model 3 and Model Y? Did they say anything?
No, it doesn't make any sense to me. The car, the thing costs more than twice what my other Teslas cost. So I don't really understand why it's lower. But it's not just me. I've seen other of my friends that have it that I asked them, and they are also paying less than for the other Teslas with the Cybertruck. Maybe because of the fact that it's supposed to be more durable. I don't know. But it's also like really expensive. So you would think the cost of replacing the vehicle, if something totals it, it would make it more expensive, but it's not. It's like, I guess they consider many factors, maybe, where you live, plus how durable it is, like resistant to impact and things like that. So I don't know, but I'm happy. I'm not going to protest. I don't want to pay more than that.
Omar, how is your insurance rate?
I don't think I got a quote on it yet. I just provided the existing Tesla insurance card I have.
Oh, interesting. Ryan, was your insurance rate lower or higher than you expected?
Yeah, Yaman, you're coming around a little choppy. I don't know if it's just me. But yeah, my insurance for my Cybertruck is cheaper than my 2023 Model X.
Interesting. What do you think is driving that?
I mean, I'm only speculating the same things that everyone else is, that either they just don't have enough data yet. They, for example, the 2023 Model X, at least with USAA, they categorized it as a performance vehicle. And the truck, even though it's the dual motor, I guess it is the dual motor that I've got, maybe they categorize it as a truck versus a sports performance SUV. So it's probably just some legacy way of looking at data. They've categorized it as a pickup truck rather than a sports car.
Well, it is a pickup truck, isn't it?
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just not saying they're fully right.
Ryan, you're not the only one. I got a couple more people telling me X is choppy. I'm trying to figure that out. Habib says audio is better currently on YouTube Live, but I'll figure it out. Well, that's kind of interesting. Wes?
I think Yaman has a problem with his internet connection because he's coming through very choppy right now. I don't know if you guys heard that.
Same for me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on.
I can't even hear him now. I'm not sure about
Because I'm not talking.
Yeah, no, he has some kind of network issue.
Because I'm not talking. No, I think...
Yaman, if you can hear us, your connection seems to be broken badly. You're only sounding like a robot that's inside the vault of the Cybertruck.
How about now? Is it better now? Is it still bad?
Still bad. Still bad.
Well, people say YouTube Live... People say YouTube Live is better. Is it still bad? Come on, it can't be that bad.
Interesting. I'm surprised because he's the host and we can hear each other, but we cannot hear him. He just sounds like what was the guy's name? The one in the wheelchair that couldn't speak. I was using a computer to speak. Oh my God.
Stephen Hawking?
Stephen Hawking, thank you. Yeah, he sounds just like Stephen Hawking.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment. David says he's trolling you. Tesla Tina, thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hit like Control-Alt-Delete or something.
Step away from the microwave.
Oh my God, Omar, you must be super excited. Let's wait for Yaman to be back in full connection. So what's the first thing you're gonna do with your Cybertruck, Omar?
Good question. Take it for a drive, I guess.
You know what? When are we gonna get this FSD on the Cybertruck? That's what I want to know.
I know. Maybe we get it this weekend.
Let's go. Yeah.
Probably not though. I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, I'll settle for basic autopilot.
As a point of clarification, I can only hear you, Tesla Tina. And you sound like you're in the same room, by the way. Your microphone sounds great.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I'm on an actual podcasting setup right now on the computer, so that's why. If anyone wants any sound effects, just let me know because I can do anything you guys want.
I sent you a co-host invite.
Talk radio broadcast.
I think Yaman is trying to speak.
I sent you a co-host invite.
If you want to hear us, I would honestly suggest trying to turn off obviously we would recommend it. Try to turn off the YouTube casting, just in case for some reason your bandwidth is getting saturated. That might be what's possibly happening.
Oh my God, give me a
but
break.
Otherwise, try that first. If that doesn't happen, then obviously try to restart the space if you absolutely need to. But
can you guys hear me okay on YouTube Live? Hold on, Habib. I'm restarting the Twitter app. All right.
Hey,
it should be better.
There we go.
Yeah. I restarted the X. Yeah, apparently it was the X app issue. YouTube sounds fine. Habib says sounds perfect. X sounds... Now we're back. Tesla, you're gonna have to send me the details of your podcast setup. Wes is liking it.
Oh yeah, I mean, very simple. You can look at it, the options. You just go to the Rode website and you can see what they have. I'm running on a Rodecaster, but they had like newer versions of it. It's not expensive at all, and it sounds incredible. And just a good microphone attached to it, and you can have really high quality audio, and you can also add sound like music files, or if you have callers, you can record your calls and then you can play them by the push of a button. So yeah, Rode, RODE, Rode podcasting microphone systems.
Okay, I'll check that out. And then I'm also looking to StreamYard, Streamlabs, and a bunch of other options.
Yeah, those would be like, you can use any of those. This is the hardware, right? So I have an actual console, which I can have 4 professional microphones attached to it, plus 2 USB ones, and a phone at the same time in the same room. So if I have a big conference room, this is the setup for that. But you can use, then you can push, you can multicast using any of those online services. So like if you want to go at the same time to YouTube and Twitter or X, then you just use something like Restream or StreamYard or any of those.
Thank you. I'm going to reach out to you on DMs, and I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to bore everybody with it.
Sure.
Any questions and comments, please request to speak. We have a couple of Cybertruck owners. Omar, there's a question in the replies, and Ron Adams asks if Tesla is accepting trade-ins for a Cybertruck at this time.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Same trading process as any other car.
Okay, so no difference on that front for the Cybertruck. We have a new speaker coming up. Wade, go ahead. Wade, you may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Thanks, Yaman. Question for Tesla Scope. Do you have any feel for the percentage of V12 wave and if it's growing out there by the week or anything? Any update would be appreciated.
So the update only went out to about 0.3% of eligible vehicles. Originally, we were kind of projecting that it would go out to actually just about 0.5, so it was slightly below that. And that's largely due to the update was paused partially throughout when the wave was going out due to some of the issues that were reported. Nothing critical. Most of them is just kind of fine-tuning related to the auto speed setting. That was kind of giving a couple of issues and headaches for those who were testing it. And that includes feedback from both employees as well as the actual customers that took delivery of or that got access to that update. So they're currently working on that. There's another update to the model that had to be worked on, so that takes a few days at the very least. We're anticipating for an update to go out this weekend, so that obviously includes today, Saturday, and Sunday. And if not, what I've essentially said is Tesla typically avoids keeping their Wave 1 program, which is essentially the early access program for employees. They avoid having those vehicles remain on the same update for more than 2 weeks because it, in a lot of ways, kind of defeats the purpose of the program. So with the last update that went out, we had kind of just went over that by 1 day, and it was just a day later that we saw the last FSD update go out. So I'm expecting the same thing to happen, and that's why I'm kind of aiming for this weekend. So we might see something, we might not, but when it does go out, I'm not initially expecting for it to go out to new vehicles. It's probably going to initially just go out to the vehicles that still already have access to version 12 on version 12.2.1. But If that goes out and everything looks good, as with other FSD updates, we should see a subsequent rollout within a few days after that. So all good news going forward.
Wade?
Great, thanks. That was real good color. Do you have any feel for the geographic location based on your 30,000 sample or whatever that number is?
Yeah, so if we look at the sample size of Tesla Scope, of Teslafy, and kind of the feedback from a lot of other accounts on Twitter, or sorry, on X, sorry about that. There's definitely a lot of vehicles, and even to some extent the primary focus on California, but there are vehicles that have had access to version 12 in numerous states. That was kind of spoken to earlier in regard to with Omar, but yeah, there's vehicles in Minnesota, in Colorado, in New Jersey. I know at least one that's in Washington as well. None in Oregon, interestingly. But those are primarily just for customer vehicles. In regards to employee vehicles, pretty much every single employee that's a part of Wave 1, which encompasses practically every single state in the United States, as well as some regions in Canada, all those vehicles have had access to version 12. So those are all vehicles that are contributing towards testing and feedback as well. Obviously, it doesn't matter as much to us as customers, but this is all still data that's useful, and all that data is used to be able to get the update to go out sooner to all of us.
Thank you.
Alf?
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Loud and clear.
Yep. Hey, yeah, before I ask my questions, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody that's on here that is constantly providing information about Tesla. Y'all are awesome, and it's really cool to be able to come on here and actually talk to everybody, too. But I've just got two questions. First one's about the Cybertruck FSD and what the unique challenges are to rolling that out. It might be a stupid question, but does, like, the steer-by-wire present a unique challenge there, and what do we think is what do we think is holding up the rollout of that?
I think that anyone that responds to that here, if it's not a Tesla employee, is speculating, but I've heard the steer-by-wire is one of those things. I don't know, really. Because if the commands that go to the car are based on directions, right, like go left, go right, slow down, accelerate, then it wouldn't matter what the mechanism to turning the wheel is. But if all that, if the hardware is specific to the commands, then I think it could be, right? So I think like a developer, and that's what I think, but I have no idea. Unless you're in Tesla, there's just speculation. Omar, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the steer-by-wire is definitely a difference that probably has to be accounted for to some extent. I don't know how difficult it is really, but that's obviously a major change to the vehicle architecture. And then, of course, just the larger size of the vehicle, the different dimensions. I imagine there's different things there. So I wouldn't be alarmed about it. I think there is builds underway within Tesla that have basic autopilot and FSD working on the Cybertruck. But I think they just want to build up a decent fleet, get some validation that the models they're training are really working, not cause any experiences where, you have worse autopilot performance than you're expecting. And once they feel confident in releasing that, it's just a simple software update, and that'll go out to everybody. So every, Cybertruck has FSD, at least the Foundation series that have been sold today. So they'll all get autopilot and they'll all get FSD beta as it's, deemed releasable by Tesla, which hopefully won't be too long. I mean, you never know with these things, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing your FSD videos from the Cybertruck, Omar. And then my second question is, do we know any kind of timeline on when the updated Model 3 performance is coming out? My passenger side door got smashed up pretty bad in a parking lot a couple days ago, and it's not usually like me to trade in a car because of something like that, but I've already wanted a Model 3 performance, and it seems like a pretty good excuse to me. So I test drove a long range one the other day, and it's incredible how much quieter it is and how much smoother the car is. And it's definitely got me. It's got me having the itch to go buy a new one.
Yeah, me too, honestly. Those things are pretty sweet.
Wes?
A question for the current Cybertruck owners. Do you know if there's any type of ADAS functionality that's currently on, like is side collision warning on, or is AEB on, or is that available in the software?
I want to say when I drove it with someone who had picked theirs up, some of the features were maybe missing. I think like maybe some of the most basic stuff like AEB or forward collision warning was there. But yeah, there were, pretty much all the features missing. So I'll be able to give a detailed report in just half an hour when I get mine.
Awesome. Yeah, for folks on that previous question, all of those things at a very high level need to be implemented first, and then FSD can build on top of that as a more, like comfort application. All the safety stuff comes first.
Tezoscope?
One other notion, which obviously should be taken as speculative in nature, was that Tesla technically had not even started testing or working on autopilot as well as like the FSD features for the Cybertruck until just the beginning of this month. There was so few Cybertrucks that were available for testing that the primary focus for the release candidates was primarily just focused on hardware validation, making sure that the actual vehicle wouldn't fall apart and correcting things that they discovered. That the actual focus on getting a initial version of both autopilot as well as eventually full self-driving just wasn't as much of a priority, which is why there kind of wasn't any communication or notion of it being available initially. But that should be changing soon. I think I would maybe say give them another month or so to keep further testing things now that they do have more vehicles to actually run and give to their ADS roles for testing that out on the cutting edge builds of FSD. But it should be very soon. I would even say hopefully within the first quarter we should see the first build of at least some autopilot features coming to Cybertruck.
All right, great. Any other questions about the Cybertruck? Any questions, comments for the couple of people we have on the board who have Cybertrucks or getting Cybertrucks? Please request to speak. Otherwise, Wes, do you have a bit more time? I can maybe talk to you about Nvidia a little bit more.
Yeah, totally.
All right, let's switch topics then. Thank you very much, Tezoscope and Teslatino. Always welcome to come back, and Teslatino will wait to hear more. And I'll reach out to you on the DMs about the podcast setup too. Thank you so much for offering to help. Appreciate that.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Talk to you later, guys.
All right. Wes, how did you feel about yesterday's discussion?
It was good. I think I have an understanding of where folks are at. It'd be fun to continue it though at some point because I've got questions.
Yeah. If anybody has an investment in Nvidia, or either long or short, or have a view of the company or an experience in the industry, you may request to speak at this time. What questions do you have for Meta? Maybe I can relay next time he's in the space. If you're not, I'm taking notes, and next time I want to have I think we have so much experience on the topic, so much expertise, that maybe a bit more structure could be helpful, I think, going forward when we're kind of having that discussion. So what question would you ask Meta if he was here right now?
Yeah, I think I like to kind of tackle these things in a more like back to basics. So for instance, at some point, I think he'd agree that AGI will be solved, but when that happens, it's going to continue to be iterated on. And in other words, like the first AGI that we get to will be the worst it'll ever be, and then we'll continue to iterate on it. And a lot of people are a bit doom and gloom on AGI. They're like, oh, as soon as we create it, it'll be smarter than everybody, and it'll just kind of do its own thing. But that's not, I think, where he and I are probably in agreement on. So like one of my first questions would be, how much compute do you think is needed if you had to ballpark it to solve AGI? And when do you think we would have that amount of compute? And this just kind of like frames the problem. And these are what companies are doing right now. And this is why Sam said he needed 7 trillion, or I don't even know if he actually said that, but it's just like some stupid big number that you think you might need to solve this essentially faster than anybody else. Because the fundamental equation is if you had infinite compute, you could solve it right now. But nobody has infinite compute. So some amount of compute less than that should be applicable to make the problem tractable so it can be solved in like, a non-infinite amount of time. So that would be kind of like the fundamental place that I would want to start the discussion. Because I think he and I might have potentially a difference of opinion there, but I doubt it, because that's like the most fundamental question I think I could ask about it. And then I would build on that by saying, okay, so given that amount and that X amount of compute in Y amount of time, how many resources do you think you'd need? And this is where the problem starts to become nuanced and like I can see the tree structure like branching out. Because this is why Nvidia, in my view, has the most legs in the game, because they have the most developers that have been pursuing this for the most combined, like man hours. And so anyway, that gives you an idea, but I can keep going.
So you're saying to get to AGI, we're going to need so much compute that demand for NVIDIA's chips will only continue to grow for many years to come.
Right. Think back to like the Cray supercomputer. I'm old, so I remember this, and it was like enormous, fit in these huge rooms, and we can now fit that same amount of compute, on a phone easily, like 100 or even 1,000 times that amount of compute on a phone. So when you initially create something, as humanity does, like we can only do what we can do right now. So we're going to create some amount of compute, we're going to solve it. And then over time, that will probably go down, but our dreams are going to keep getting more and more crazy. So we'll keep dreaming up new things to build. So we'll just keep needing more and more and more. So my supposition is that even if it's solved, not only will we keep iterating on it, but we're just going to have bigger dreams, and we're going to want more until we, satisfy that. But I think it's insatiable.
And you think that Meta doesn't agree with that need for compute is insatiable?
Well, I think that's a fundamental thing. I think he might. But I think the part where we diverge, and he said this a couple times, is that I think he sees the amount of compute that we will need over time will become so specialized in ASICs that Nvidia won't have a play in the game. And honestly, like when I started on TPUs back in 2016, I was thinking roughly the same thing. I was like, well, we're going to get to these big models and transformers are amazing. Like we're going to get these things self-learning. All we're going to have to do is build this one model and it will continue to grow and feed on itself and it'll just learn. And we couldn't really get it to do that. It still really isn't able to do that. And not only is it not able to do that well, but humans aren't the best trainers. Reinforcement learning from human feedback tends to actually skew things in a poor way. So things don't actually progress very well. And we've kind of learned that, like OpenAI learned that in ChatGPT 3.5 and in previous versions as well. It just doesn't, it's not a good approach to the problem. You know, if you're trying to land a plane and you're flying into the wind, that's a good thing. If you're flying with the wind, it's typically a very bad thing. It's much harder to control the plane. And I felt like, you know, even though we thought human feedback would be good, it was like, you know, kind of like trying to land a plane flying with the wind. It made things a lot more unstable. You were kind of getting there faster, but you could never land the plane. Like, we could never get our learning curve to, coalesce. And anyway, I'd get down deep into the weeds, but I think that's where he and I might be a little bit divergent.
Okay. Yesterday, you said something that kind of surprised me, and you said Google's TPUs were ahead of Nvidia's hardware for a couple of years, but then Nvidia pulled ahead. Would you elaborate on that a little bit? Maybe like put some specifics around what metrics you're talking about, and also any product names.
Yeah. So with kind of TPU V2, which was back in 2015, 2016 timeframe, we kind of, I would say, surprised the world with how big we could make matrix multiply. Because we were doing 512 chips all tied into one very, very fast compute matrix. And I think it caught Nvidia by surprise a little bit. Not to mention the fact that Transformers came out in the next year. And they completely and 100% got on the AI bandwagon and basically bought this company called Melanox. And they have this amazing product by which they can connect their GPUs in a very tight mesh so that they can communicate now at I think they're at nanosecond, but they might be sub-nanosecond now. And I'm not actually sure of what the product name is anymore. But that technology...
What's the name of the company Nvidia bought?
Melanox.
How do you spell that?
MELLONOX, I believe.
Okay. I'm going to look there. And this was in 2016?
Sure. Yeah, 2016, 2017. Sometimes I'm not great on dates, so don't hold me to it.
That's okay.
But they bought this company, and this is the technology that allows the GPUs to connect together really fast.
Oh, wow. Let me just give a quick read on this acquisition. Yeah. Nvidia to acquire Melanox, MELLANOX, for $6.9 billion on March 11, 2019. Unites leaders in processing and interconnect for the high-performance computer market, builds on the company's long history of collaboration innovation, expected to be accretive to Nvidia's non-GAAP gross margin, non-GAAP EPS, and free cash flow immediately after the close. Nvidia and Melanox today announced that the companies have reached a definitive agreement under which Nvidia will acquire Melanox. Pursuant to the agreement, Nvidia will acquire all the issued outstanding common shares. Looks like this was a publicly traded company at the time, for a total enterprise value of approximately $6.9 billion. The acquisition will unite two of the world's leading companies in high-performance computing, HPC. Together, Nvidia's computing platform and Melanox interconnects power over 250 of the world's top 500 supercomputers and have as customers every major cloud service provider and computer maker. Interesting. So you're saying that this transaction was transformational for Nvidia?
Yeah, it was huge. In my memory, obviously, it was a bit off because I thought they completed this earlier, but maybe that's the date when they completed the acquisition. But they were working with Melanox. They were using Melanox to do their data center build out, for quite a while. And so it's InfiniBand. I just looked it up. InfiniBand is the product that they were using, and obviously they're on a much later version now. But this is the thing that kind of thrust them into the large language model compute game, where they could compete with TPUs, head to head. And even though I think we did a really good job of staying in front of them, that has, we've relinquished that, or Google has now relinquished that, and they've kind of been losing that.
Let me ask you, what about this transaction allowed Nvidia to be able to compete with TPUs in matrix multiplication?
The speed at which they could connect the GPUs together every clock cycle. So the way that neural network compute works is that without getting into too much detail, but I can get into more, is that a whole bunch of tasks are doled out, and then the GPUs do the calculation on one clock cycle, and then the product of that clock cycle is then communicated back into the mesh and digested by some central compute, or it's digested by the mesh itself and then redistributed out to all of these compute nodes again, and then they go through another clock cycle. Obviously, you can imagine the crazy amounts of data that's being transferred through the mesh. And that is why they started to do much better, because they figured out how to dole it out quickly, the ingress into the chips, and then they figured out how to egress that product out very quickly. And then on each clock cycle, no chip was starved of data. And that is how they became so efficient, because even TPUs could potentially be starved of data on a clock cycle, as opposed to GPUs, which had a little bit more flexibility in how they could store data. And even though they were slightly less efficient on each cycle, they were still filled with data. Anyway, it's a bit nuanced in the details there, but that's kind of the gist of it.
Got it. That makes sense. And since it's a one-on-one conversation right now, you feel free to go into more detail if you think would help folks understand better, and me as well.
Yeah, and if folks are trying to follow along, and if you're looking, gives a thumbs up or something, or thumbs down if you don't understand, because I prefer to talk when it's helpful for people, because I don't actually like to talk just to talk. But this was kind of like the major acquisition. And now that you're reminding me, because this is in the news now, because Elon just sued OpenAI, is that acquisition date is very close to the date that OpenAI went into their LP, their for-profit, they disillusioned the nonprofit and then reorganized into a for-profit arm. That happened in the same time frame, the same month of the same year, which is interesting. I didn't even realize that was closely tied, because I was working that contract at that time. And so I think it's important for people to realize that this is why Nvidia is, it's not an unstoppable force, but the process takes so long to build out these pipelines, this infrastructure of supporting AI compute, that Nvidia makes very tactical and strategic decisions quick enough that they keep themselves relevant. And TPUs are just one example of a optimized chip for AI. There's many others, but there's no other production level custom ASIC training chip and large data center matrix that I'm aware of. There's nothing that competes against Nvidia in that space. For instance, Chamath, and I can never say his last name, starts with a P. His company, Grok, with a Q, that we talked about yesterday for a little while, my predecessor went there to build this, and he went there in 2016, 2015, before I started, and he was the lead on TPUs. So that's just taken so long. They don't have anything in production. I'm not even sure how close they are. And then Cerebrus is another one that people might know of that they can look up. And that has not really gone into production yet. So these things just take time. And this time just plays to NVIDIA's favor. They have so many resources with so much knowledge, and they've already built out these pipelines, and they can iterate and make them more efficient. And that's not nearly as hard as bringing up something completely new. My hope is for Jim Keller and Tense Torrents, with the help of Chris Latner and modular AI, to make this more of a level playing field going forward. They're not necessarily working together, but it's kind of painting a picture in a more standardized palette. You know, they're kind of, you end up coloring with all the same colors, rather than it being a completely separate space like TPUs. And granted, the TPU infrastructure teams have done a really good job of making that more approachable. So if you train on GPUs, you can use that same code and train on a TPU as efficiently. And they've been building that out for years. That was my former team. So they've done a really good job at that, and I applaud them. It's just not something that is remarkably scalable as opposed to what NVIDIA has. So anyway, there you go. It's kind of my 2 cents. Have I lost anybody?
No. That's totally fine. We have a question that replies before I go to Peter. But before that, Bitter Melon asks, Xilinx and Altera were acquired by AMD and Intel respectively. Do FPGAs provide an advantage going forward?
That's a great question. And I've worked with Xilinx, and the other company I'm not familiar with, but Xilinx makes small chips, and which are ASICs, and some more general purpose chips for just like basic kind of like backbone compute. I've used them on many boards that we did at Tesla. I've used them on boards at other companies too. So they're great. Microsoft uses them. I'm not exactly sure what path they're going to. I know that they have an AI, I wanted to say ARM, but they have an AI set of products. But the FPGA, just to talk to that specifically, the field programmable gate arrays, those are great. They're very flexible, but they do not compete with custom AI ASICs that are just matrix multiply. It's a very different level of compute. So you have to go through abstraction layers, which reduce drastically the efficiency of the chip, because that's what FPGAs are. They allow the ability to have this flexibility, and they're not just like a burned-in algorithm and a burned-in set of hardware that just does one thing. So inherently, they're much less efficient, and they're also usually much smaller in their compute size, their memory size, and their complexity is usually much higher, just in general. So anyway, it's a good question, though.
Peter.
Circle back to the unlimited compute. Wouldn't money be the limiting factor in that, I guess? Because nobody has $7 billion. It would have to be like another Manhattan Project level effort that governments would have to sponsor probably. Wouldn't that actually prevent us from getting there sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I get that the SAM 7 trillion number is kind of ridiculous. But I agree with you that it would have to be more like a government level Manhattan Project type thing. If that is true, which I don't believe it is, but then again, nobody really knows because nobody solved it. But we try to approach things in a tractable way. That's why we have neural nets, because that's the only tractable way that we know to solve AGI. So when we approach it in this way, we say, hey, like, how big can we make the model? And then what kind of model architecture do we need? And then what kind of compute infrastructure can we train that model on? All of those things are extremely meaningful. Structure is, can you actually do it? We don't know the answer to that, so that's just the path we go down. If you threw, excuse me, infinite money at it, infinite resources, there's this great book called Mythical Man Month. I don't know if anybody in the audience has heard of it, but it's a software designer's way of saying you can't have a baby in 1 month with 9 mothers. It's basically the gist of the book. So you just can't throw infinite stuff at it and expect to get a result any quicker. This is why...
Can you send that book to me on DMs?
Yeah, sure. This is why Elon keeps the team small and lean. And then as they progress or they hit roadblocks, they tend to bring in new people as needed. Because it's more than likely the solution in software development is more of a breakthrough rather than an iterative nature. I think this is why they've cut bait several times on their architecture, and why I'm pretty hopeful after watching AI Driver's last video. There's a bunch of things in there that would be fun to talk about, but I think I'm going to run out of time. It's not possible to, I'll just be blunt, I don't think it's possible to solve AGI with by throwing money at the problem. It's more than likely going to be solved by like 20 to 24 folks just brainstorming the hell out of it, for a period of years. And I know Ashok and Deval, that's what they're pursuing. And I think AI Driver's last video demonstrates that they've taken some huge leaps from 11 to 12, things that I didn't think it was going to be able to do for quite some time. Honestly, if it's able to do some of the things that I've seen with my drives and it's able to do those, then I feel like the end is closer than I thought it'd be. And it might change my kind of deadline for curb to curb. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
So you're saying you have to see it on your car first before you change your timeline?
Yeah, because there's some things that I know that if there's problems in the stack with certain things, then, and I can go into those, we've talked about it many times, then you can't solve it. It's not going to be solvable. That it's a simple way to say it is it's a local max. You have to go back and restructure your architecture or your approach. But it looks like some of those things are getting nailed. For instance, the one thing that I'm worried about is that Omar's first build was aggressive and good. It had issues with hallucinations, where it thought it was at a stoplight, but it wasn't. The stoplight was way in front of the intersection that it was at, so that's like a hallucination, which people might be familiar with using current large language models. But it looks like they've taken that and they've kind of ratcheted down the policies so that it's way more... They've kind of nerfed it, is the technical term, believe it or not. So they've kind of taken some of the intelligence away from it and dumbed it down so that it's way more cautious and hesitate. And in my opinion, that's like a shortcut that isn't going to work. And I would be sad if, that build went wide, because I don't think that's going to buy them anything. Anyway, I can keep going down this path if you're interested.
The one thing I want to ask you is, what do you think is the probability that Google, back to Nvidia, what do you think is the probability that Google might give up on TPUs and start using Nvidia's chips?
0. I think TPUs largely are, I really want to use like a sailing example, but it's a concurrent path that allows them, with not a lot of spend, because they've done all the original R&D, and so now it's incremental. The amount of spend that, and it's already paid for itself. Like the technology that they've developed is like vastly paid for itself. The amount of spend that they put into it. So I don't see them abandoning it at all. But it's a concurrent path for them to be able to say, look, we don't know how to solve AGI. The Nvidia has one path, we have another. And their path is scaling actually pretty well, because they're, just to talk about it a little bit, they're able to take these pods, like 8,096 chips in a pod in V5 and tie them together so that you can have, 16,000, and 32,000, and it starts to just look like memory. Just think about your computer back in the day. That's how we thought. In fact, when people buy still an iPhone today, it's like, oh, it's got 256 gigs of memory. It's the same thing. Like, it's got 256K of compute chips. That's what it'll be like, in 2 or 3 years. We'll have the ability to have that amount of compute for AI. So no, they won't abandon. I highly doubt that, because it's completely amortized. All of the R&D spend has been done, and they're on a very similar path to Nvidia, where Nvidia may hit, there is the chance that Nvidia may hit a roadblock just like TPUs may on the hunt for AGI, but I doubt it because of the things that I've just said, plus DeepMind is also pursuing this kind of in parallel. So you have, inside of Google, you have kind of two separate big teams that are pursuing this from both application standpoint, a model building standpoint, and then an application standpoint. So there you go.
Got it. Thank you. Interesting. Trying to see if I have any other questions for you at this time.
Yeah, the whole space is fascinating. And, while you're looking, like the other companies that I mentioned, like Grok and Cerebrus, and there used to be like 90 different hardware AI ASIC startups. And we used to kind of keep them all organized in GitHub. But largely nothing's come to market yet. Not in a scalable way. And this is why Latner kind of went, hey, I'm going to go create a middle layer to make this all kind of work together, because being on TPUs, we could see that our ASICs were doing really well. So we just assumed that there would be more in the future. And you'd want to bring all of those together with this middle layer that would make it extensible, essentially, to all hardware. In other words, we kind of had this term, I don't know how widely this is used now, but it was called code once, train anywhere. And then it kind of evolved into code once, train everywhere, which kind of meant you could point it at like infinite compute, and it would just fully utilize this infinite compute. And that's, kind of the path to solving AGI. Anyway, it's a little sidebar.
Okay, let me ask you one thing. So on the last call, Nvidia's CEO said 40% of their chips are used for inference today. It seems to have surprised people. And do you think that's a bullish comment for the stock or bearish?
Let me break that down just so people understand, I think, what's being said. And I didn't hear it in context. I didn't listen to the earnings call. I've honestly never listened to an earnings call from Nvidia. But what that means is that GPUs are actually really good for inference. in that they are pretty much the only, outside of the trip chip and a couple other chips. Honestly, there's edge TPUs as well, but I won't go into that. But Nvidia makes pretty much the only solution for edge compute, which means inference. Because not a whole lot of inference is actually done in data centers compared to what we call at the edge, which means in a client device or in a client product of some kind, in a client end service, at the client site. It's not in a data center. In other words, it's done, you run inference locally in real time. Your engine is computing anyway.
Right, but I mean, one good way to kind of put it, especially in this crowd, is the FSD computer is an inference computer, and it's done on the client side, which is at the car, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, keep going.
I think the number is very reasonable, 40%, because training is just done once. A lot of companies, like if I'm selling you AI cloud services again, a lot of companies only train once a week, and these models are pretty big and they run their company on them. Like they run a lot of their internal services on them. And I can go into details on that, but it's boring. But yeah, they only have to train it like once a week. Some companies only do it once a month because their data doesn't really change that much. They're not finding any new things that they want to train on. They're actually happy with their trained models. Inference is running all the time though. So 40% is meaningful. Like that's a meaningful amount. I would expect that number over time to grow actually. Training to go down.
So let me just clarify one thing real quick. So you're saying that, so what they're saying is clients are buying these H100s. Let's just simplify it and say all are H100s. And then they're using those chips for inference.
Not necessarily. H100 is way overkill for inference. They would use a smaller variant of the latest, whatever their architecture is called. It actually used to be called Tesla back in the day, believe it or not.
Okay, so basically they have chips for training, they have chips for inference. And I guess there was a concern in the market that, Nvidia is more on the training side, but the future is more about inference. And Nvidia said, we're also a strong player on inference as well.
Oh, yeah. They own the market.
Except for example, Tesla's cars, right? Because Tesla replaced them with a custom FSD computer.
True, but and Tesla does all of their inference in their cars with the trip chip, but it's a very small percentage compared to the rest of the world.
I understand, but then now in June, Apple is coming out with an iPhone 16, and they're going to have their own inference chip in the phones, correct?
I don't know. You could send me that. I'd love to read about it. More than likely, that will be built on ARM technology. Right, and they've licensed ARM to build their own, I can't even remember what their chips are called, but they license ARM tech, and then they can design their chips around that license. And ARM licenses them AI architecture. And so I think that's what they're building off of.
But not Nvidia.
Just to be clear, like Apple... Since Steve passed away, like Apple really doesn't innovate. That's a long story.
No, that's fine. But so the point is, Apple is able to use another chip, somebody else's chip or their own chip for inference. Tesla is using its own chip for inference. And you said here a couple of days ago that it's easier to replace Nvidia on the inference side than the training side because the inference side is a lot simpler.
That is true. It's easier to replace inference than training. Totally.
Okay, so when I hear from management that 40% of their chips today are being used for inference, I don't interpret that as a bullish comment that everybody seems to be interpreting that. So what am I missing?
They're more efficient. So in other words, Jensen, the reason that there is no major player in inference right now is that it's the most efficient way to do your inference compute is on an Nvidia chip. And it's all the things that I've said before, not just the chip itself, but the board, the tools, the compiler, the application stack, all of the developer stuff that comes along with the developer environment is hugely important to creating products efficiently and then running your efficient inference.
Okay.
It's
so
like
Cuda,
a penny for 10,000.
Gotcha. So Cuda is acting as a moat both on the training side and inference side.
Yeah, calling it a moat is, a moat has connotations to it. I would call it, millions of hours of developer time has gone into it.
What connotations does moat have?
Moat is more like a walled garden, and it's not necessarily a walled garden, but it kind of is.
Okay,
like,
so
for instance, the Apple
it's I guess,
ecosystem.
can we call it a network effect? So Cuda is just as much of a network effect on the training side and the inference side?
Sure, yeah.
Interesting. So I guess that's another area where you and Meta disagree. How much of a network effect, how much of a walled garden is Cuda? Meta seems to think that there are people who are trained to make it easier for a potential client to switch out of Cuda to another software. Is that right?
That's what Google did with TPUs. They made it so that if you had a model that you wanted to train on Cuda and you were in your production pipeline, you could switch over to TPUs and not have to change any code. So that's what they built.
But Omar said yesterday that I think it's called, what was the name of for TPUs type? What's it called again? TensorFlow.
Yeah.
That TensorFlow isn't as popular as Cuda, and it's lost popularity.
No, I would agree. So Cuda and TensorFlow do not compete against each other. They're not the same part of the stack. What competes against TensorFlow is PyTorch. So those are kind of the two things. And yes, TensorFlow has lost a lot to PyTorch. PyTorch is there's a lot of things that makes it better. But they compete against each other. TensorFlow, just so everybody knows, is built by Google, and PyTorch is built by Facebook, which is interesting for many reasons, because Facebook really doesn't compete in AI, but they kind of own PyTorch. But that's a whole other story.
And what's the relationship between Cuda and PyTorch?
Cuda is a set of libraries that enhances GPU's ability to compute AI models and train AI models. Where PyTorch, you wanted to know PyTorch, right? The difference between that?
Right.
And anyway, PyTorch and TensorFlow are a set of libraries that allow you to code up your model better, coding up the model specifically. They give you the ability to do that much easier than if you had to do that by hand straight away. So two slightly different things where it's helping you with the model specifically and with the hardware that you're running on. And then Cuda integrates with that to make that more seamless for just NVIDIA hardware. And now also NVIDIA data centers.
Interesting.
That's a little confusing.
That's all right. So can you explain why does Meta think of Cuda as less of a, intractable obstacle than you do?
Yeah, I think it's because somebody has demonstrated that they can make a product that competes against it. Google has demonstrated that they can compete against Cuda with TPUs. They've demonstrated it. And so, like, why can't anybody else do that? I think over time, other people should be able to do that. But I would argue that you don't have enough resources to compete against Cuda. And not only that, you can never catch up because they've got too much momentum. They've built up too much brain trust. It's not dissimilar to Tesla having a lead in making EVs. They've just built up, even though other companies buy them and reverse engineer them, it doesn't matter because Tesla's continue to innovate. They just continue innovating, so you can't catch up. We see all these car companies now building on the skateboard design. Well, they're not doing that anymore. They're going to gigacastings. And now they're going to unboxed. And so, yeah, it's kind of a similar analogy.
So when I asked you that the other day, you said, well, Google bet the company on TPUs, on creating TPUs. And I don't see that urgency from Microsoft and Amazon. I think that was kind of generally, I'm paraphrasing. But Omar disagreed with that. Omar said there might have been true a few.
I remember.
Omar said that might have been true a few years ago, but if you aren't betting the company on these things now, then you're going to be irrelevant in a few years. What do you think?
Yeah, I would obviously I agree. I think you need to bet the company. I don't think Microsoft has done that yet. They've definitely spent a lot of money on it though. That's obvious, I think, to anybody. But they're not saying, and I'm not saying they should do this, but I'm saying, like, if you got a lot of money and you're spending it on something else other than pursuing this, I would strongly consider to ratchet that back. That's where I'm saying they're not really betting the company. Where Google had no other major R&D spend. It's one of the reasons why Waymo was spun up. It's because it's like, well, we have to try to prove out this design. Like, what better way to do that? What bigger problem to try to solve than autonomous driving? So that's, kind of going down that same path. But I don't see Microsoft doing that. They're still milking, I would say, in a nice way, their enterprise revenue stream and profit centers, which is great. But you probably don't need to have all of that R&D spend there. Don't do that because you're not going to need that in the future. But they still think they do because they're not betting the company on AI. So they're still putting money down that path. Does that make sense?
It does. So seeing what from Microsoft make you say, okay, you know what? They're betting the company on it, or betting the company is not necessary. They will come up with a product that replaces Nvidia's chips for their own use.
I would, and I would probably do this if I was giving Microsoft advice. I'd split the company. I'd split off the company into an AGI focused company and just pump money into it. Granted, money isn't going to solve all the problems, but now you have a company that's wholly focused on just solving AI, AGI, and it's not beholden to other problems. And I honestly think that this is, why OpenAI did what they did. And it's the path that I think Microsoft is on. They need to put up or shut up at this point and just bet the company. And that's what they haven't done yet. And Google already did it. And they did it in a way that people didn't even really realize. But that's why Jeff talks about, how they thought back then that if they didn't do it, they'd be irrelevant in the search space. And now they're becoming irrelevant anyway. That's another path. But they are kind of becoming irrelevant again with Chat GPT. I don't really use traditional Google search anymore, ever. I just use Gemini, and I use ChatGPT as a backstop. So traditional search, I think, is dead at this point, like completely dead. They can use it as a training set, but in the large sense of the world, like it's unnecessary at this point. It just needs to be built in to their AI model, traditional search. That's another discussion.
I guess isn't that separate company that you're suggesting Microsoft should do? Isn't that called OpenAI at this point?
Well, I mean, on the surface it may look like that, but in a legal sense, no, not really.
What makes you say that?
OpenAI is separate from Microsoft, even though Microsoft has a lot of abilities to control the limited partnership arm of OpenAI, but it's still not completely funded by all the R&D, all of it. All of the R&D that Microsoft has should be pumped into that. Then you'd be betting the company, and then you could argue that it is that company, it's separate. But in a legal way, it should just be split off. Kind of like Google did with Alphabet, and just kind of said Waymo is its own thing, and all these other moonshot ideas were their own thing.
Well, earlier you said AGI isn't going to be solved by lots of money. You need 20 to 24 engineers coming into a room and basically brainstorming the shit out of it. You said, but now you're saying Microsoft needs to put all the R&D monies behind this effort. So can you help me understand, kind of connect those two together?
Yeah, it's giving that smaller set of researchers and machine learning experts, it's giving them as much resources as they can to iterate as fast as they can. So that's what I'm trying to demonstrate, that it's not necessarily like every resource that you have, and it's not like all the money in the world is going to solve the problem. It needs to be extremely focused to bring in the right amount of people and as much compute as you can get your hands on. And that's why Sam is talking about this crazy 7 trillion number, but it needs to be the right amount of compute. And so you take as much as you can and see if you can expand to that much. And if you can, and that helps you to move faster, then great. But moving faster isn't just larger. It needs to be the right amount. I guess it's very nuanced, and sorry for the confusion.
That's okay. I understand what you're saying, and I think though Microsoft's actions seem to align with what you're suggesting quite a bit. If you assume OpenAI is that separate spin-off company, they kind of went about it in a different way than you suggested, and then also combined with the fact that 20% of Nvidia's revenues are coming from Microsoft, customer A, which I'm guessing is Microsoft, then it sounds like they might be listening to you in these spaces, Wes.
Yeah, maybe so. Good for them. Free consulting.
Yeah, there you go. Just give you, what percent? 25% of company?
Yeah. It's all good. I would just like to see it solved responsibly. That's all.
Any thoughts on Elon's suing OpenAI?
Yeah, I don't know if he has legal basis. And I don't know exactly what legal precedent the filing stands on. I would want to hear a tech legal expert to comment on that, because I haven't read it at all. I haven't even seen really a synopsis. But if there was a legal agreement to not be for profit, and then that agreement was changed, and if it didn't have the proper sign off, because the board of directors always has, a standing set of rules that they have to follow. And if they didn't follow those rules, then, then it's not legal. But if they did follow those rules, then there's really nothing Elon can do. It's just a dog and pony show.
Do you think he might be going after something during discovery?
I don't think that, maybe, but I doubt it. He doesn't work that way. I don't think that OpenAI has anything that he doesn't already have with XAI. I don't think he's pursuing any IP, intellectual property. I don't think he's pursuing any company secrets. I don't think he's trying to out somebody. He just doesn't think that way. He's just trying to solve the problem of AGI. And I'm not exactly sure why he's filed this. I don't know if he's just mad. But he doesn't really do that. So I would assume, my assumption is that he thinks something actually was illegal. That's why he would file that. So if I was reading through that document, which maybe I will this weekend, I would look for the actual illegalities that it brings to light. And there's probably 2 or 3 bullets that you could sum that up to. Anyway, that's my thought.
Thank you. Any questions for Wes? Please request to speak. Thank you for being generous with your time. I really appreciate it. I don't want to hold you up. If you have, I'm sure you have other things going on.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've got about 10 more minutes and then I got to bail.
Okay, 10 more minutes. Any questions for Wes? Please request to speak. Wes, you said earlier that you use Gemini and ChatGPT as a backstop. I kind of do the same, actually. I do the same. So that's
I find Gemini to be pretty good, all things considered. Obviously, I don't pay for ChatGPT. I just use the free version, so it's stuck in the past. But Gemini's pretty good with current events, and then I don't have to look at ads and crap. But it's definitely not perfect. But I find it to be better than traditional search.
Did you sign up for Gemini Advanced yet?
No, I like to use what's publicly available because it gives me the best sense of what the company can actually do. When they start to charge for things like that, then it's more geared towards, I would say, people who want something more than it can probably deliver. And I'm always not happy with it. As a product manager, as a tech product manager, I think the thing that they release publicly without any type of pay, or you have to pay for, is their best. That's the best that they have to offer. Everything else is kind of filtered. Yeah,
that's definitely one thing I learned from you in recent months, in the last year or so that we've been in the space, that you place a lot of value that a piece of software is in production. It's in the hands of the public, not just a demo.
Yeah, wide release.
Peter, and then Tesla Yoda.
Hey Wes, so why does Jim Keller say that Cuda is a swamp or cesspool? Like, what are the limitations of that product, I guess, or I don't know, shortcomings that he's talking about? And second, how come nobody else has anything equivalent to Cuda? I guess Google has the PyTorch, but what are the limitations and why has nobody come up with anything better?
Yeah, good question. I talked about this a bit yesterday, but just to kind of quickly sum up, Jim's company and product directly competes with Cuda. So he's kind of biased, even though I think the world of him, honestly. He's like a superhero in the hardware world, real. He's a real superhero. But yeah, he's competing against it. It's maybe I'll just a simple analogy, and you tell me if I'm answering your question. So there's this podcast a couple years ago where this guy tried to build a toaster and tried to do it from scratch, and it's just not possible. even though we can buy a toaster for like $20, all of the pieces of the toaster, they sit atop this huge tech, industrial, mining, chemical stack that we've built up over hundreds of years. And so you can't just build a toaster if you want from scratch. Like, it would take you years and years, to build up this tech stack again, to build a modern toaster, which is funny because you can literally just take a piece of bread and put it over fire and it toasts it. So it's just an interesting example to say that Cuda has, just millions upon millions of developer hours in it. And it's extremely efficient, and it's a huge tech stack. And if I had to picture it in the world, it's like the Burj Dubai times a million. Like, if you had to build all of those buildings in order to compete against Nvidia, that's what you'd have to do. And it's almost intractable, I would say. But Jim's trying, and Chris Latner's trying with modular AI. They're trying to make that less of a moat. I don't know. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I guess they just have the time advantage. Basically, that's the gist of it.
Yeah, first mover.
Tesla Yoda. Yoda.
Oh, thanks, Wes. Yeah, thanks for sharing your insights. I just wanted to run kind of 4 possible challenges by you facing Nvidia. Now, kind of the context is that I think from a demand standpoint, there are no issues in the short run for them. From a competitive standpoint, there's enough demand to kind of swallow additional competing technologies in the medium term. But I think I just wanted to get your thoughts on these 4 areas, which are maybe broader. So, could these be challenges? The first one being elevated energy costs. So, sort of chips for inference tasks, require substantial energy. And as the client base explode from data centers to enterprise to the end user, could rising energy costs in certain key markets, countries be a sort of a factor? The second being maybe a shift in Nvidia's allocation of TSMC capacity vis-a-vis rivals like Apple and AMD. Because again, the chips are currently mostly manufactured, if not all, by TSMC. The third being, could it be that there are some false dawns as companies try to solve AGI, and that there's this final step or future steps that require another chip architecture that is not suited for GPU and sort of vector-based computation, and that we just don't know it yet. And then the final fourth one being regulatory hurdles impeding AGI development. So, as I look at the Elon lawsuit with OpenAI, things like this could kind of trigger regulatory actions to slow down AGI development. So just wanted to get your thoughts on these 4 kind of broader potential challenges ahead for NVIDIA.
Yeah, cool. So I was taking notes. Let me know if I get off track. Feel free to interrupt me. So on the energy one, yeah, that's a real concern. Elon has actually talked about that. He feels like we could have a potential energy shortage. I find that hard to believe, that could be an issue. I think the world does a really good job of creating kind of the energy that it needs, and we're pursuing that in a very sustainable way now. Many countries actually have sustainable energy outweighing fossil fuel type energy creation. So, and the amount of solar panels that are being put out is like extraordinary. So I feel like that scale while we could potentially hit problems with that, one of the things that's really interesting about AI compute is that largely it can be done when people are sleeping. And as you might know, like there's this much lower base of energy that is needed, at night. So anyway, I see that as a possible concern, but I don't see it as a headwind to NVIDIA growing. And then on the second one, you talked about rivals using TSMC in the same way that NVIDIA does. And that's been a potential problem for, as long as NVIDIA's been around. And a lot of people think that, if TSMC is building competitor chips, that they could possibly maybe leak information, or maybe the same tool is used on a different line. If that's what you're thinking, it's possible, but by the time you have a chip design that can utilize those tools, or maybe there's straight up espionage where your plans are leaked to somebody else, it's very easy from a hardware engineer to see that something's been copied. That IP is very easy to see. So companies just don't do that because it's obvious. It's as obvious as, it's completely obvious.
I was just on that note, I was thinking about kind of the shift in allocation and whether that's strong arm through Apple or slight favoritism of a certain customer, kind of the shift in those allocations. But thanks for your point about obviously TSMC won't be divulging trade secrets, right? So
even if it happened, it wouldn't be very valuable. You can get ideas from it, but that's about it. So let's see, moving on. If there's another chip architecture that maybe is better, like if you hit a roadblock with GPUs, this has also been a concern. And even originally, it was like, hey, GPUs are good for this, but they're not great. And that's why Google went down the path of TPUs, and they did that, and they made them great. But then Jensen came back and said, wait a minute, I can make GPUs great. And he did, and now he's surpassed TPUs again. So the likelihood of that is probably pretty small because they've scaled to just these incredible amounts with the InfiniBand technology from Melanox that they acquired. And they've just been iterating the hell out of that, and it just keeps getting better every year. So I find that hard to believe, or a low probability. It's possible, but that would have to be a completely new model, I would think, and it would not be matrix multiply or kind of vector simple math based. It would have to be a completely different avenue, and that's possible. I just don't see that it's probable. I actually do feel, nobody can predict this, but I do feel matrix math is going to solve AGI. From the things that I've seen, I just see it as an inevitable future because it scales so well, and it does things that are extremely human-like, almost too human-like because they're wrong, and humans are inherently flawed creatures. Anyway, that's my opinion on that. And then the regulatory hurdles, but not really. I think what was the quote? It's the enemy of your enemy is your friend type thing. We have to solve it first as a competing world power. I think that's kind of why people are giving free rein to this, and why that paper of we need to stop development is kind of silly. We just need to do it responsibly. And so the best way to do that is to do it first, and to do it, here in the United States. Because I honestly, in my heart, I think we will do it responsibly. as opposed to maybe it happening other places, because no matter what, it's going to be pursued. And there's no stopping it. That's why I think it's inevitable. That's why I think matrix multiply is going to be the solution, the foundation of the solution. And so I don't think regulatory is going to put any type of hurdles in the way of that. Doing it responsibly, yeah. Like if you're in the public space and you're a publicly traded company and you are, incorporated in the United States, yeah, you have to have, very strong ethics and moral committees governing the creation of your AGI. So yeah, that has to happen. But are they going to slow you down? Probably not, because I think we'd rather be first. So did I kind of hit your points?
Yeah, amazing, Wes. And maybe just a fun follow up. If you had $1 million and you could give it to someone to grow it, would you give it to Jensen or Elon?
At this point, it's not a money problem. And it's kind of like in the nuanced way that I was saying earlier. It's more of like I was really like happy to be a part of Tesla and of SpaceX, and to say that, hey, the only reason why I'm here is because I want this to succeed, not because, it's hugely profitable. Like when I left Xbox to go to Tesla, like everybody thought I was nuts, and I got paid a lot less and it was way more hours and it sucked. It was very hard on my family. But it's just creating that thing is very important. So I think it's a lot more about that. And so I will continue to give my support to Elon and his companies because I know he wants to do it for the right reasons. Like he doesn't give a shit about money, like at all. He doesn't, like zero. The man lives with friends, and he barely sleeps. And anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I'd give it to Elon as I think the short answer.
Thank you, Odo. EV1. EV1, you may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hey, Wes. Going back to Jim Keller's comments about Cuda, how much of NVIDIA's dominance would you attribute to Cuda, or the hardware, or the design of the chip, or the dance between the two? So how much of it is Cuda?
It's in a large part Cuda. Last I heard, there were 3,000 Cuda engineers, 1,000 with a T. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And I have a friend who is now a Cuda engineer who was at Microsoft for, quarter century. And, now his brain is contributing to this too. And it just absolutely fascinates me, how much brain power they have, and how focused energy. So I attribute a lot to Cuda. It's hard for me to put that in numbers, percentage wise. When I picture a pie chart, it's dynamic. So some years, when I was in Google Cloud, we would see these new numbers come out. We could see the roadmap ahead of time, and I could see 2 years out, and I'm like, wait a minute, how many transistors are you gonna have? How many cores? How much? It's crazy. And the only way that they can do that is they can write software for it and compilers and, Cuda. And so they both feed on each other and they work really well together. And then the developer environment and the support that they give, to folks at Google and other big companies and, the developer community at large is unparalleled. And to call it a swamp is just biased. So yeah, I attribute a lot to everything, and it changes. It's some years I don't know if you've ever heard this. Sometimes there's like this tick and tock cycle of hardware. So you have on the tick, you have brand new architecture, and then on the tock side, you have an iteration. In other words, you have a die shrink, and you just make whatever architecture you develop faster because you can only go so fast with new architecture changes. Well, Nvidia just does this so well. They've kind of shortened this down to a tick-tock like every 6 months, which is absurd. But they've been able to do this. And so like I attribute a lot of their success to just building the whole pipeline out in a really seamless way and helping their customers along for the ride. And granted, they dominate the market. They have incredible market share. They have incredible profit. You know, they greatly exceed Apple, the numbers that I saw. So, you know, they still demand, you know, a crazy amount of profit, but, you know, it's the entire world is running on them. So the short answer to your question is I think it's pretty much a level playing field. It all seems, you know, equal. Sorry, it's kind of a cop-out answer.
That's okay. That was a great answer. All right. This space has been going on for, I can't even do math right now, 3.5 hours. Any other questions, comments for Wes? Wes has been very generous with his time. Again, incredible. For the last few days, the kind of quality of discussion on Nvidia and Tesla has been really, really high. Thank you. And, you know, most of that is due to you, Wes.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You set up this really well, so I feel comfortable sharing.
All right, that's great. And the questions from live chat and the replies and questions on the speaker board have been great as well. And I know that we're going to continue this. This gives me a lot of work tonight, to kind of go over, edit, and publish all that this weekend. And I'm going to try to figure out some audio, video stuff on live chat as well. And this channel will only get better. We created, the YouTube channel is now monetized. And it's open for super chats, super thanks, and all that good stuff. You can go on the YouTube channel and support the channel that way. And you can even become members and all that. We have great moderators over there, some good questions coming from there as well. And we're going to have video over the weekend. I'm going to try to figure that out. And then this gives you a lot to think about. And then next time we meet, I'm going to ask you some more questions, Wes.
Sounds good, man. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your Friday nights and enjoy your weekend. I will talk to you next time. Take care.